All right, Mayor, the meeting is yours.
Okay, thank you, Susan, very much. And we certainly want to welcome everyone to the Vinton Town Council meeting for this Tuesday evening, May 18th. And I will officially call the meeting to order. And Susan, if you would read our confirmation and also call the roll, if you would, please.
All right. Councilmember Lyles,
Here.
Councilmember Mullins,
Here.
Councilmember Stovall,
Here.
Mayor Gross.
Here.
We do have a quorum of council. Town staff that are present: Pete Peters, Cody Sexton, Susan Johnson, Ann Cantrell, Chief Drummond, Anita McMillan, Bo Herndon, and Donna Collins. Also present, Jeremy Carroll, our town attorney, and Debbie Adams with the Vinton Messenger. I would like to confirm that our meeting is being held in accordance with Town Ordinance number 1016 and Section 4-0.01G of Chapter 1289 of the 2020 Acts of the Virginia General Assembly, and everyone present is participating by electronic means. Mayor, the meeting is yours.
Okay, again, thank you very much, Susan. We'll move on to our moment of silence, which we use here at the Town of Vinton so that everyone can pray as they see fit. And as always, I would ask you to keep this country and this community and certainly the council meeting in your thoughts and prayers tonight. I will close that moment of silence, and that time we'll ask Councilmember Keith Lyle to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I know it's a little awkward, but if you would stand for those two items. And I might mention too, it might sound a little better if we just let Keith say the pledge. Sometimes it gets a little crazy. So let's give that a try tonight. So if you would stand for those two items, please. Or we just want to lift this country and this community to you in our council meeting tonight. We just thank you for all your blessings. Amen. Keith? Keith, did you want to do the pledge now, please, sir?
Sorry, everyone, I was on mute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Okay, we'll move on to the upcoming announcements. And since the vice mayor is here, I think Pete has a list for us tonight. Is that right, sir?
Yes, sir, I do. Let's see if I can share. There we can see my screen. I did not do this fancy page. This is done by Miss Barber, but I will share it nonetheless. So May 20th, which is this Thursday, the Vinton Area Chamber of Commerce will hold their annual golf tournament at Botetourt Country Club. I do believe there is still an opportunity to register if anyone would like to participate. Looks like good weather. Upcoming rescheduled dates for the Dogwood Festival. We had a couple activities we had to relocate. So May 22nd from 10 to 4, the Antique Car Show will be held. And that same Saturday evening at dusk at the Farmers Market, we'll have the free showing of the Lion King. On May 23rd, the Advancement Foundation will hold a gauntlet fundraiser at the Farmers Market. And I think this is a paint day at 1 and 3, and you can register at the Advancement Foundation's website or contact Shannon, and they can get you registered for that. On May 25th, we will have the ribbon cutting and Arbor Day celebration for Glade Creek Greenway Phase 2. That's at 9 a.m. at the trailhead just below Billy Bird at the Glade Creek Greenway trailhead. May 27th, the 7th Annual Gauntlet Awards will be held. There is an in-person option to attend the awards this year at the War Memorial. If you are interested in attending that, they do ask that you RSVP to make sure that we can accommodate the space. Let's see, June 3rd, we are returning several senior programs back to the community center. I believe Tai Chi, and then we have table games. June 7th at the farmer's market from 6 to 7, we have the Burger and Boot Camp, which was a huge hit pre-COVID. So they're bringing that back, and there was a workout at the farmer's market followed by burgers. So, I mean, what can go wrong, right? And then June 12th, the Vinton Chamber presents the mingle, our first mingle at the market of the year from 7 to 10. It'll be the Odd Fellows Band. Food trucks and the beer garden will be available.
Okay. Pete, thank you very much. Are there any other announcements? Anyone else have anything? If not, we will move on to the next item. Pete, thank you for those announcements. Sounds like a lot of things opening back up, a lot of activity starting to take place. Next item is request to postpone or change the order of the agenda. Are there any requests tonight? If not, we will move on to the consent agenda. Tonight it contains the regular meeting, the minutes for the regular meeting of April 6th and also April 20th. And a couple important resolutions, one appropriating the funds for the body-worn cameras for the police department. And then, of course, the resolution to accept the VDOT funding. I think that's $380,000 some dollars, if I remember right, as well as the $30,000 match from Pathways for the Greenway. Are there any changes or additions to the consent agenda? If not, we will entertain a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
I'll make a
So
motion.
moved.
I'll make a
I'll
motion.
second.
Oh, sorry, Pete.
Okay, so I think I heard a motion by Councilmember Lyles and a second by Councilmember Mullins. Is that right?
Yes.
Cool.
That'll work.
All right. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Ah,
Those opposed, same sign. Okay. All right, we'll move on to the awards and presentations for this evening. And we'll ask our town manager to do this next introduction, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Gross. Good evening, members of council. Some of you have already met or have worked previously with Cody, but it is my pleasure to introduce you to the town's new Assistant Town Manager, Cody Sexton. Cody comes to Vinton after serving the last 7 years in Botetourt County as the assistant to the county administrator, where he also served on the county's executive leadership team, served as the county's PIO, represented Botetourt on numerous regional committees, including several transportation committees, where he administered a lot of their grant applications for STBG and Smart Scale. Cody also assisted annually on creating the county's budget and oversaw the county's central garage and fleet management operations. Prior to Botetourt, Cody previously worked for Stafford County as an analyst. Cody has a bachelor's degree from Roanoke College, holds a master's of public administration and certificate in local government management from Virginia Tech. And Cody also serves as an adjunct professor at Roanoke College, where he teaches courses in public affairs and local government. And in addition to assisting the town manager's office in overall management, Cody will directly oversee the Public Works Department, and he has already jumped right in with planning efforts on the traffic signalization replacement program and a number of utility upgrade projects that the town has underway. And I am very thrilled to have Cody join the team, and he has certainly fit right in and gotten to work very quickly. So Cody, welcome, and I would offer you an opportunity to say anything if you'd like.
Well, what more could be said? Thank you, Pete, for all those words. Absolutely looking forward to my time in Vinton. 2.5 weeks in, and already lots of excitement, lots of opportunities, and so just looking for many more. And a pleasure to work with all of you and everyone on staff. So excited to be here and look forward to doing more with y'all.
All right. Well, Cody, we certainly want to welcome you. I've had an opportunity to interact with you a couple of times, and I'm just really excited to have you on board. I think you're going to fit right in the Benton team really well. Council, any comments?
I do. Cody, I'm going to tell you right now, the town manager made a comment about the fact of traffic and traffic signals and all that. You know, Benton's 3.2 square miles, got a little over 8,000 employees, but if you don't ever figure out where an intersection is in the town of Benton, please figure out the intersection of Clearview and Harding Road right beside Dunkin' Donuts. Figure that one out. Right now, figure that one out, and you'll be great. I get a smile from Councilmember Lyles on that one.
No, I will give all credit to Bo on that one because he has already solved that problem long before my arrival, and I'm sure you'll hear more about it in the Public Works Committee update. But Mr. Lyles had a smile on his face during that committee update as well last week. So.
Yeah, I've known Cody for a while, and his family, and he is an outstanding gentleman. His family is the same. So I'm thrilled that I had no clue that Cody was coming to the town of Benton, and I found out about 2.5 weeks ago, before it was right as it was being announced. So I welcome Cody and look forward to all the amazing things that he will continue to see Benton prosper from. So look forward to having you with us, Cody. We can't wait.
Thank you.
Great.
Welcome to Benton. I hope to get to meet you in person soon. Sounds like you've jumped right in, and we do appreciate that very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm trying not to jump feet first instead of head first. So.
There you go. Well, we're excited about you being here, Cody. And even though some of my good friends in Botetourt have given me a little bit of heat, we're still excited that you're here. And I guess that's just the way things work in the valley here. So, okay.
Real quick, it says a lot about the town of Benton if we can pull the talent from other areas. Mike mentioned our 2x3 square mile little pocket here that we live in, and if we can attract the talent that we did with Cody, it says a lot about the town of Benton.
Exactly, it sure does. It's in the middle of everything, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay, any other comments? No? With that, we will move on. We have several proclamations this evening. The first is a proclamation. We actually videotaped these things a little bit earlier. And I just want to say we're just really, really proud of our police department. They've always made us very proud. They continue to advance their professionalism and just a really kind of a pillar of our community. So we're very, very proud of those folks. And with that, Susan, I don't know if it's you or Pete that has the video all queued up, I hope.
I think I'm ready to go.
All right,
One
let's
second.
do it. All right.
On behalf of the Benton Town Council and our citizens, I would like to thank the Benton Police Department for keeping the peace in our town and making our town very safe. I also want to congratulate the Benton Police Department upon being a very professional and excellent organization. Of course, we want to remember and honor all the peace officers who have given their all, their very lives in the line of duty. The Benton Police Department has a wonderful relationship with our citizens, and they are well respected throughout the town. I believe one reason there is mutual respect is due to the importance that has been placed upon community policing by our police department. We can certainly cite many examples of the Benton Police Department being involved in the community, such as the Mobile Community Activity Wagon, Movie Night, National Night Out, or participating in birthday parades during the pandemic. The Benton Police Department is comprised of quality people who are well-trained and well-equipped and are highly qualified. We are immensely proud that our department is fully accredited. Most importantly, our officers care about the community and the citizens here in the town of Benton. There are countless examples of the officers going the extra mile to help our citizens and visitors to our town. So thank you, Benton Police Department, for all you are doing in Benton.
It is an honor for me to read this proclamation today. Whereas the Congress and President of the United States has designated May the 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day and the week in which it falls as Police Week. And whereas the members of the Benton Police Department play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of the citizens of the town of Benton. And whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the problems, duties, and responsibilities of their police department, and that members of our police department recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence or disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression or intimidation. And whereas the Benton Police Department has grown to be a modern and scientific law enforcement agency and provides a vital public service. Now, therefore, I, Bradley E. Gross, Mayor of the Town of Benton, and on behalf of Town Council and all of our citizens, do hereby proclaim May the 9th to May the 15th, 2021 as National Police Week in the Town of Benton, and call upon all citizens of the Town of Benton and surrounding areas that are served by the Benton Police Department to observe this week and to join Town Council in recognizing officers for their faithful and loyal devotion to duty and dedicated service to our community. In witness whereof, I have set my hand and caused the seal of Town of Benton, Virginia, to be affixed on this 29th day of April 2021. Thank you.
Any American who gives his life in the defense of our communities deserve everlasting memories in our hearts. National Police Week gives recognition to those in our beloved profession that have lost their lives in the line of duty. Day in and day out, law enforcement officers throughout the nation fulfill their oath in office. In 2020, 360 law enforcement professionals gave their life to their communities they serve. This year, 111 officers have lost their lives while fulfilling their oath and preserving our way of life. As stated by writer Pluribus Cyrus, anyone can hold the helm when the sea is calm. But what happens when the waters are challenging? It is during those times that we rely on the first responders to guide us for direction. Any officer who loses his life in our great nation strikes the core of our beloved profession. But today we recognize thousands of police officers who have left us far too early, but left making an impact in our community and our nation. We find comfort in knowing that those officers have been promoted and now have graduated to serve with the Lord. The law enforcement officer does not wear the badge for glory, but for the single principle of love of service and the preservation that is enshrined in the rule of law. It is our profession, the law enforcement profession, that preserves the sanctity of life in our great nation. It is the selfless sacrifice and the final actions of those who pay the ultimate sacrifice that solidify that there is no greater calling than that calling to serve others in times of need. We are a profession built on the premise of chasing one objective, one unified mission, the preservation of the rule of law, and the committed service to our beloved community. While today we recognize our fallen American heroes, I would like to remind you all that those who choose a life of service are all American heroes. You are first-line responders etched by the fabric of service and sacrifice with the same heart created by the Almighty God. Today, as we honor the fallen, we reflect on the path of the law enforcement officer and the oath that we each take. Our profession will always remain united by a common goal: to protect our communities and hold the fine line that separates order from disorder. Believe in your profession, give honor to the fallen, the courage they exhibited in their final moments. As long as the law enforcement profession maintains the course of its mission, loyal to the community they serve and devoted to our Creator, we will continue our noble path of prosperity that some have made the ultimate sacrifice defending. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Susan or Pete, whoever managed to get that to play. We appreciate that. And of course, the National Police Week was May 9th through the 15th, and that's immediately followed by National Public Works Week, May 16th through the 22nd. And again, we had the opportunity to pre-record the reading of the proclamation and some comments. So Pete, if you can play the next video, which is for the National Public Works Week, another group that we are very, very proud of, that's for sure. They do a great job.
I know I speak for the entire Benton Town Council and our citizens when I express my sincere appreciation for the Benton Public Works Department. We are profoundly grateful for the awesome job they do in maintaining the infrastructure within our town. You will hear in just a minute in the proclamation the list of services provided by the Benton Public Works Department. In short, they keep our town operating smoothly and looking great. The dedicated individuals in the Public Works Department are well-trained and well-equipped. The staff provides an exceptionally high level of service in an incredibly professional manner. The members of the department are very familiar with the town and often prevent situations that could range anywhere from inconvenient to disastrous. The everyday function of our town, as well as special events, depend upon this department. I like to say that the Benton Public Works Department touches the lives of thousands of people every day in a very positive manner. We are enormously proud of the Benton Public Works Department. So thank you for what you are doing for our citizens and the visitors in Benton.
It is an honor for me to read this proclamation today. Whereas public works services provided in the town are an integral part of our citizens, institutions, businesses, and industries' everyday lives and well-being, and whereas public support of the importance of effective and efficient public works services such as street maintenance, sidewalk repair, solid waste collection, recycling, traffic sign and signal maintenance, snow and ice removal, stormwater collection, water production and distribution, and wastewater collection improves morale and the performance of public works staff. And whereas the health, safety, economic growth, and quality of life in our town greatly depend on these vital public works services. And whereas public works staff also provide critical response capabilities, experience, and support in times of emergency. And whereas the efficiency of the qualified and dedicated people who staff public works is positively influenced by the citizens' attitude and understanding of the important services the staff provides. Now, therefore, I, Bradley E. Gross, Mayor of the Town of Benton, and on behalf of Town Council and all of our citizens, do hereby proclaim May the 16th to May the 22nd, 2021 as National Public Works Week in the Town of Benton. In witness whereof, I have set my hand and caused the seal of the Town of Benton, Virginia, to be affixed on this 29th day of April, 2021.
I would like to thank the town of Benton, the mayor, vice mayor, members of council, staff, and our hardworking people at Public Works for all their dedication.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Pete, for putting the videos up. We also have another proclamation this evening, and that's for Arbor Day. Anita always puts together a program on Arbor Day, and we actually consider it a very important celebration here in town. So we'll ask Anita to, I think she's on here, to explain what's going to happen as far as our Arbor Day celebration. And after that, we do have a proclamation, and I think Councilmember Lori Mollett is going to read that for us. So Anita, do you have any information for us this evening?
Mr. Mayor, members of the Town Council, yes, sir. This Arbor Day will be our 19th year designation as a Tree City USA. As a part of the requirement, as part of the being Tree City USA, we do have to hold Arbor Day celebration that we will be held next week in conjunction of Glade Creek Greenway Phase 2 ribbon cutting. This year, Roanoke County would like to join us with the celebration of Arbor Day. As part of the tree planting, we apply for the Virginia Department of Forestry grant to purchase some trees, and some of the tree will be planted at the trailhead parking for the Greenway, along the median and red maple at the farmers market, and the different trees. Those are funded by Virginia Department of Forestry. This year we're lucky. In the past, we normally receive about $1,600 in grant funding, but this year we will be able to receive about $6,000 that we will be used toward the purchase of the trees. The reason we're able to get the additional funding, Roanoke County and Roanoke City are not applying for that grant. So it's only City of Salem and the town. So we're gonna have about 30 over trees that will be planted, and will be planted by Creative Nursery, hopefully by tomorrow. So we'll see. Looking forward for the celebration and the ribbon cutting. I hope each one of you will be able to join us. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Great, thank you very much. We appreciate that. Sounds like it's going to be an exciting day, and going to be getting a lot of trees. That's awesome. That's great.
Absolutely.
So, Lori, did you have the proclamation?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable source, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our town increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now, therefore, I, Bradley E. Gross, Mayor of the Town of Benton, and on behalf of Town Council and all of our citizens, do hereby proclaim May 25th, 2021 as Arbor Day in the Town of Benton, and urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the hearts and promote the well-being of this and future generations. In witness thereof, I have set my hand and caused the seal of the Town of Benton, Virginia, to be affixed on this 18th day of May, 2021.
All right, Lori, thank you very much. And I'm looking forward to our Arbor Day celebration. Sounds like it's going to be a big celebration this year, so I'm excited about that. All right, we'll move on to citizens' comments. This section's for anything that's not listed on the agenda. Susan, have you received any requests in your office?
No, Mayor, no requests for this meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. And next item is town attorney. I don't see anything listed, but always good to see Jeremy in his spiffy tie, all right?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good to see you as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Always good to see you. I think Pete and Cody's trying to give you a little competition there, brother, on those ties. I don't know.
Well, I can understand.
Yeah.
I've been trying to lead this crew, but hasn't worked too well.
That was good. Trying to set the example.
Trying to set a good example. Yes, sir.
I think you have. All right, with that, we'll move on to the town manager and we'll start with some briefings, if you would, please, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor Gross, members of council, and Jeremy has been doing a lot of work behind the scenes for the town, so I do appreciate all his efforts. In fact, he's probably responsible for me having to wear these now, all the small print I've been reading. But anyways, we shall proceed to the Gish Mill briefing. So this is not anything you as council have not seen a lot of in the last year. But I will present some information this evening, primarily on three agreements that I will be seeking support for from council on the June 1st meeting. As you know, the Gish Mill property has been an ongoing focus of staff and a direction of council since 2015 when the town purchased the structure. That is the founding structure of the town and dates back to the 1770s. The town initially conducted a number of environmental reviews using EPA and Virginia Brownfields Assistance Fund grants to perform the environmental reviews as well as develop three conceptual plans that were eventually presented to the general public in a series of meetings and then eventually endorsed by council as the consensus direction to preserve and rehabilitate the structure. It was the direction of council that we maintain the visual representation of the mill so that it was recognizable and moving it forward, but also hopefully producing something that could be economic benefit and attractive to the town. Upon council endorsing those conceptual plans, the staff issued an RFP to solicit interest from the private sector with potential to redevelop the structure. We did end up speaking to 6 interested developers. However, the successful proposal that was submitted was by David Hill and David Trinkle under the name of Gish Mill Davi LLC. In April of last year, council authorized the purchase agreement with Gish Mill Davi to acquire the property and allowed initially for 12-month due diligence to secure the necessary funding and design the detail for the stabilization and updates to the building. That due diligence has been extended since, but we are getting very close, and it is very exciting for me to present these final documents to you this evening, which is really the last step before construction commences. I do again have 3 agreements for council's consideration: a performance agreement that will be between Davi, the town, and Gish Mill, and the Economic Development Authority. We have an industrial revitalization loan, IRF loan, with that was provided from DHCD that we will provide to Gish Mill in the form of a loan. And then finally, we have the memorandum of understanding between the Roanoke County Board of Supervisors and the Town Council for financial support that Roanoke County will provide towards the project. And I'm going to attempt to show a few just details of the project. We do anticipate this project being nearly 2.8 million, if not more, in total investment when we're all said and done. As we get further into the project, we have some contingency built in, but we're using the number 2.8 million for investment as it stands right now. This is a mixed-use redevelopment. It's over 5,000 square feet of indoor and exterior dining in the main historic structure. There are 7 VRBO style hospitality apartments, if you will, 3 of those occurring in the silos and 2 on the second floor and 2 on the third floor. a locally sourced market, and then finally a special event space that will take place in the basement. We do anticipate the project to generate as many as 42 jobs. We are conservatively estimating 1.85 million in annual gross sales of the associated businesses located in Gish's Mill. And in return, those businesses are expected to generate $165,000 of new taxes to the county on an annual basis. Wanted to review a couple of the current condition slides just to remind everyone, in particular for those who have not seen this presentation before, of the challenges with this site. Is you can imagine a structure that's well over 200 years old that sits in the floodplain, has a number of challenges, and it's quite expensive to renovate. It would be much easier to build a new space than to try to renovate this location, but a building of this historic significance for the town, the uniqueness that it will provide when it's rehabilitated is certainly worth the effort. So, but that notwithstanding, we do have to have some creative solutions in order to make this work financially. So a lot of the information I'll provide in this presentation is how we've come up with the funding to rehabilitate, preserve, and update the structure. And these are just some of the slides, some of the photos of the current conditions. However, we did, Nathan and I and Anita went out to the site today. For the last 2.5 weeks, we've had some folks on site cleaning the property, and it looks.
They've been doing a great job. I mean, a great job. I was down there yesterday. They've been doing a great job.
It looks significantly different inside after that cleaning. So all this you see debris is now gone. And it is quite exciting to see what the potential is in the space now that it's cleaned up. So let's see. We have to get to the right slide here. These are a few of the slides just on what the design concepts are. Again, most of you have seen this. This is a bird's eye view, a representation of the footprint. So you'll see the white structure there in the middle, that is the current building, the defined uses. The red dots represent umbrellas. Those are actually located on expanded exterior patio. And then you see the parking spaces along the left and right in the front of the property. By and large, what you see from the road frontage will remain quite recognizable of what it is today, just better looking. It'll look like it is, but just a better condition. A lot of the development, what you'll see was going to take place interior with new plumbing, new electrical, new lumber in some cases, but restoring the original structure. And then a lot of the new construction will take place on the rear of the property with the expansion of the patio. Here you see, again, a look of the rear patio. So that's new deck construction and the original mill there with the brickwork. This is an interior shot of some of the dining options and the one of the bars that'll be inside. It's hard to see, but there's some garage doors, so there'll be a lot of indoor-outdoor component. And then just some of the associated uses again, the silos and the main dining area, the local market, and then the event space in the basement and apartments up top. At this point, I'd like to discuss a little bit of the finances. This is really the meat of the performance agreement and what we're looking to approve in these documents. So I'll go through these slides just a little. Essentially, this project, again, it's about $2.8 million in total investment, and that is essentially broken up or provided in buckets of thirds. So the private sector is funding a third of this project with private financing. A third is being provided either by grants or historic tax credit reimbursements. And then a third is the public portion, the town of Benton and Roanoke County portion of our public-private partnership. So in essence, that's how we're making up the difference of this construction project. If I can start on the left here, and I'll kind of work my way over to the right and just explain some of the details that you're seeing on the screen. Again, 2.8 is our working number right now on the total investment. We do have a $250,000 DHR stabilization grant, Department of Historic Resources. I put 200,000 in the chart there because that represents actual construction dollars. Some of the other 50,000 is used for some of our historic designation activities and some studies we had to do behind the scenes. So that brings our cost down to 2.6. The private sector, that the DAVI group is bringing 1.86 million to the table in private financing. We're providing an IRF loan in the form of, or in the amount of 468,750. They anticipate generating revenue of 683,000 after the selling of their historic tax credits. So in total of private financing of their money and the town's IRF loan, it's 1.6 and some change. If you look further down on the project, the in-kind property that we're providing is valued at 126. That's what we paid 5.5 years ago. We're doing some building preparation, the cleanup activities that you've started to see happen on site. So that's a current expense for us to kind of prepare that property for delivery to the new owners. If you move down a little further, this is the actual performance agreement and some of the incentives that we're providing in the way of cash or reimbursements as they're based on performance of the project moving forward. Upon the closing of the property, the town will provide $250,000 towards gateway improvements. This is primarily parking lot, lighting infrastructure, connections to the greenway. So this is just the welcoming mat to the town, and we're contributing that so that the developers can spend their dollars on the interior of the space, on actually making the space usable and able to host the tenants that they have signed for the property. The town's portion of the annual performance incentive is in the form of $40,000 for 10 years. This is based on a minimum of meals tax collections. So they have to generate the meals tax in order to receive it. And I'll get to that in a minute on what we anticipate meals tax to generate, but it will easily cover the $40,000 that we are reimbursing and then some. It's really about a 3-to-1 return just on the meals tax alone is what we're anticipating. And then there's some permitting and connection fees for our utilities that they have asked for, again, to reduce the expenses necessary to get this building up to current standards. And then you look down a little bit further, Roanoke County has agreed, actually as of last week, to provide $200,000 in incentive in the form of $40,000 for 5 years. Again, that's based on sales tax and real estate collections from the county. So that's new taxes that they anticipate collecting and have agreed to partner with this project and reinvest that back into the project to buy down the cost, again, because it is such a challenged and expensive project to undertake. So in total, it's about a $910,000 incentive. That's the cap. But again, they have to meet the investment goals. They have to maintain jobs of 37 full-time positions annually. They have to generate the meals tax. They have to meet the opening date of December 31st of 22. So there's a lot of goals and targets for them. I mean, we are protected so that if they don't meet those investment goals, they don't produce, then we don't do incentives. And if you take the IRF loan, for example, that's $468,000 that the state has given us to assist in this project. We provide that in a loan to the DAVI group. As they pay that back, then we as a town keep that and can reinvest in additional economic development projects in the future. So if I know it sounds like a lot of money, and it is, frankly, but if you deduct what the county's participated with, the loan value that we will get paid back, the town will have just over $200,000 in outlay over the next 10 years. So if you look at it in those terms, $20,000 for 10 years of town money, again, it's generating much more in excess of that. It's a more than a worthwhile investment for the town, just to preserve the site for one, but to actually create jobs and generate revenue for the town. It's certainly a worthy investment. So I do have the next council meeting. I will bring back to you the 3 agreements we discussed. Again, that's a performance agreement, which is the contract between the town, the Economic Development Authority, and the Gishmill Davi that provides all of the mechanisms of how we fund them, when we fund them, and what happens if they don't produce. Then we have the IRF loan agreement, which has a number of associated documents with it. And we'll have that agreement for you. And again, that is between the town, the Economic Development Authority, who administers the performance agreement and the loan, and then Gishmill Davi LLC. And then finally, we need to take action to agree to the MOU that Roanoke County has already authorized last week to accept the additional funds for the partnership. So let's see if I've covered everything. I would like to thank Keith and Sabrina. They serve on the town's Economic Development Committee. They have heard this presentation probably, I don't know, a half a dozen times at minimum, probably more. So I appreciate their attention and assistance to guide this process along the way. It has been a fun project. It has been a long project, but I'm really excited seeing this piece come through. I also want to again thank Jeremy. There's a lot of contracts to be reviewed, and he has earned every penny. There's a lot going on behind the scenes with these contracts, and obviously want to recognize David Hill and David Trinkle for their vision to take on this project. This is sometimes you go in the space and you think, why would they do this? But they believe in it. They're excited about it, and you can see the excitement in their face when they walk in the building. So that's going to be fun. And then every staff member in the town, from Susan to Ann to Anita, the PD, even Public Works, have done a lot of work, and everyone's contributed toward this project. However, the last 12 months, probably the MVP of this, it would be Nathan McClung. The work he's done. We've had a lot of leadership transition over the last 12 months. We've had a pandemic, and he's kept this project on task. So we've all contributed, but he has certainly kind of kept the ball moving forward in a very challenging year. So we just want to recognize him for his efforts. And I believe that is all I have, unless you have any questions. I kind of flew through that, and there is a lot of detail. So if you have questions, feel free to ask. Thank you, Mayor Gross.
Okay, Pete, thank you very much. Council, you have any questions or comments for Pete? Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, Pete, yep. The presentation is just like I've seen before. If you need a day off to need someone to do it, I'll help you out.
You could probably recite it from memory, I'm guessing.
No, it is an exciting project, and it's come a long way. And yes, thanks to Nathan and staff and everybody. That it's not an eyesore. I think a lot of people look at that as an eyesore. It's a gem that someone's going to polish and make it shine in the town when you come through our gateway. So looking forward to it, and hopefully I can get down there before all the cleanup's done, just so I can see the empty shell and look to see what they're starting with. So keep us in mind, Pete, if y'all go back down there one day.
Will do.
Yeah, Keith, they're probably saving a few things for you to clean up down there, so don't worry.
I'll do it.
It is an exciting project, that's for sure. If there are no other comments, we can move on to our next briefing, right, Pete?
Yeah, at this time, I'd like to ask Donna Collins, our HR Director and Human Resource and Risk Management Director. Sorry, you wear too many hats, Donna. I can't keep them all straight. But I would like to introduce Donna to provide a briefing on the paid time off policy.
Thanks, Pete. So tonight, Mayor, members of council, I wanted to give you an overview. You have in your packet a resolution to transition from our current sick and vacation leave policies to a new PTO plan. And I wanted to give you an overview of how we're going through the process, and hopefully answer questions that you may have. All right, let me see if I can get this right. see that?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. All right. So basically, we wanted to transition from our current plan to a PTO plan, and we wanted to do this. Council had asked us to look into this and try to achieve this with some basic things in mind. Can we do this within the budget allotted? Can we do this so that we're limiting the lag time and replacing key roles and it doesn't disrupt continuity of services? And most importantly, I think everybody's mind was to respect the current employees' accrued time. So working with Jeremy and with feedback from Ann and Pete, we drafted a PTO policy. And I just wanted to give you an overview of what the current leave policy and the new PTO policy will look like as far as the differences between the two. So right now, all our employees currently accrue for 24 out of the 26 pay periods. So on the new PTO plan, they will accrue for all 26 pay periods. Of course, a PTO plan takes the separate sick and vacation leave balances and puts all that time into one bucket, so to speak. So currently under our plan, our third of the sick leave can be used if employees reach a threshold of 15 years with the town and retire from the town. They can use a third of their sick leave to reach their retirement date. Under the new PTO plan, they won't be able to do that. It won't count towards reaching their retirement date. They accrue time during all circumstances. So if somebody is on a leave of absence, extended FMLA leave, suspension, administrative leave, they accrue no matter what. Under the new PTO plan, they will not be able to accrue under those conditions. Our rollover time was done on an annual calendar year. What we're proposing to transition to now is no rollover on an annual basis, so long as the employee does not exceed their maximum threshold at the beginning of the next fiscal year. They won't need to worry about rolling any time over or losing any time. And lastly, the main difference in the two leave plans, leave policies, is the vacation leave is payout when when employment ends, whether it be our choice or the employee's choice. Under the new PTO plan, there will be two exceptions that PTO will not be paid out upon severing employment. If the employee is termed for cause and if the employee fails to work out a 2-week notice. So in looking at this, the next step was we held employee discussions and all the employees were invited and we gave them options on the different possibilities they could use to get their to transition to the PTO plan and have their vacation and sick leave balance, what was important to them. So after the discussions, we started with 2 options, and then out of the discussions, we created a third option. And so all these options basically reflect what is important to the employee. For instance, is that 1/3 of time important to them to get to their retirement date if they've worked with the town for so long? Or is it more important that they have the sick leave paid out and some of it rolled over to vacation time? So under option A, and I'm going to give examples of this for each option as we go, so just bear with me for a few minutes. Under option A, the employee can freeze the current sick leave balance as it is. And so long as they're not over a vacation threshold, because now we're dealing with a sick leave balance and a vacation leave balance, that vacation leave balance we're looking at becoming the new PTO balance. So long as they're not over a threshold, because we don't want to impact anybody negatively over the next 12 to 13 months, where they feel that, as soon as we roll them over into PTO, because the new PTO plan will not allow for them to move any excess PTO hours into another bucket. Like currently they can roll over vacation excess into sick time they're not going to have that option anymore. So we don't want to put anybody on a scale and set them up to fail. So what we're looking at is that vacation time rolling over to the new PTO plan, but putting everyone basically midpoint on the scale. So it gives them some wiggle room as far as the next 13 months. So option A was they freeze their sick time, any surplus in vacation time gets paid out, and then they start the scale on at X amount of hours. Option B, we gave them the option that they pay out a third of their sick leave balance, depending on where they land. When they roll up to whatever hours they had left, they could roll over up to 80 hours if they had it available to their vacation leave. And then we do the same computation to figure out where to place them on the PTO scale and pay out the overage. And then option C was we pay out the third of the sick leave option, which gives that, takes that financial liability off the town. They realize that they're forfeiting that right to use to their retirement date, but all that time is left and put in a sick leave balance that they can use for an extended illness period. That gives them the safety net that if they have to be out and they don't have the leave time accrued, that's kind of there as a backup after they use 3 days of their PTO time. And then of course, the same for the overage on the vacation hours and computing it onto the PTO scale. All right, so an example of this is basically, employee Sally Smith has 13 years with the town. And the difference, I should say before I go any further, we base these on what Virginia Retirement System plan the employee was on. For instance, we have Plan 1 employees who have been with the town for some time, Plan 2 employees, which I believe it's that were with VRS from 2010 until 2014, and our public safety falls into Plan 2 as well. Excuse me, or our hybrid employees are those employees that start after January 1 of 2014, are not public safety employees. And that's basically where, at this point, those employees have 6 or 7 years of experience in the VRS system. But the important component in this is Virginia Retirement System requires the employer to pay for short and long-term disability for those individuals that are on the hybrid plan. It's part of the setup they had with developing the hybrid plan. So we already provide that for our hybrid plan members. So in your packet, you see the various different PTO scales. Everybody's going to accrue the same, but the hybrid employees will not be able to carry a high threshold, because if they go out, for example, their threshold is, I think 352. So if their maximum accrual at the end of if they should go out on leave of some kind, they only need to use 1/3 of their time to make their paycheck whole, because 60 to 65% of their pay is going to be provided to them through short and long-term disability. Whereas someone that is public safety or VRS Plan 1 and 2 does not have that safety net. So they have to use all of their sick leave to keep their paycheck whole. So we're trying to accommodate as much as we could with the differences between those plans to be fair and equitable. So back to Sally Smith. So she's got 13 years with the town. She's on Plan 1. Her hourly rate is $23.85. Sick leave balance is $475. Vacation leave balance is $550. Her new PTO accrual rate is based on what plan she's on as far as what years of service with the town. So the first thing the employee has to do is decide what's important to them. So under option A, she can freeze her entire sick leave balance to use towards that retirement date. So then we go through this computation to figure out how we can get them onto the new PTO scale. So since she's got 550 vacation time hours, we're looking at forecasting the next 28 pay periods to get her through June 30th of 2022. And by doing that, we're hoping to put them on the middle of the scale where they're not going to be negatively impacted July 1st of 2022. So if we forecast that out and say, okay, she can, based on where she's at on the scale, she can accrue a maximum of 284.30 hours. We add that to her vacation time, and that gives her 834.3 hours. And we subtract what the maximum is for her for her VRS plan, which is 640 hours. We get an overage of the 194.3. And then we multiply that out by her hourly rate. And then she receives a payout of $4,634.06 for her vacation time. So due to her having a surplus of hours, what we're going to do then is subtract her starting vacation hours by the overage, and that puts her in the middle of the PTO scale at 355.7 hours. So Sally has thought about it some more, and now she's thinking, okay, maybe option B is better for me. So she's going to get a payout for 1/3 of her sick leave balance, and then up to 80 hours of that gets rolled over to her vacation leave balance. So first, she's going to receive a payout for $3,776.25 for her sick time. And then we use the same formula to determine what her starting PTO balance and what her vacation payout overage would be. So this time we're adding in the 80 hours that was rolled over from the sick time, plus how much she'll accrue in the next 13 months or 28 pay periods. So that gives us a total of 914.3. Subtract that by 640, or subtract 640 from that, and the overage amount is then 274.3 hours. So overall, she's going to receive a payout for $4,634.06 for vacation time, plus her payout for $3,776.25 for her sick leave time. Her total payout she'll receive would be $8,410.31. Again, using the same formula, puts her on the middle of the PTO scale at 355.7 hours. Sally's thought about it one more time, and she decides she wants to do option C. So we're doing the same thing. We're taking the 1/3 of her sick leave balance, which is the 158.33. She gets that paid out, which is just $3,776. We're taking that 2/3 of her sick time and we're freezing it. So the remaining 316.67 hours is frozen. It can be accessed after utilizing 3 days of consecutive PTO for extended leave, illness, or another approved leave reason. And then they forfeit their right to use that 1/3 of their balance to reach the retirement date. Again, we go through this with the vacation leave balance. She's back to the $4,634.06 payout for her vacation time. Same computation to realize where she's going to be on the scale, and she'll be at the 355.7 hours for her PTO balance, her starting balance. So what the employee really needed to decide was what's important to them: saving leave time, cashing out their leave time, keeping some in case they have a future need for it. And essentially, this is what the breakdown looked like. So public safety, option A option A overall was not chosen by a lot of employees. So we had one person in public safety picked option A, and then it was kind of split between option B and option C. VRS plan 1 and 2, those are your more tenured employees that have been at least in the Virginia retirement system, if not with the town for, their experience with the town is from 4 years to 25 years. They went more for option B, was more popular with them. And then our hybrid employees, which is kind of what I anticipated, I believe in what we were thinking, is that these are the least tenured employees. So they have the least amount of leave. So their biggest advantage was, for some of them, after thinking about it, was that they wanted to roll it over, take the option B, take the 1/3 payout of sick leave, roll over up to 80 hours into their vacation time, and then they receive an additional payout for that. And of course, we're giving the employees the option of just getting the payout, of rolling it over into their nationwide 457, and trying to work with them, to try to come to whatever their best option is for them in particular. And that is it. So if you have any questions or concerns, I'd be happy to answer them. I know it's a lot to digest. It's a lot to repeat. So I will answer anything that you may have as far as about the plan, about the policy. Okay, I think I did that right.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Donna. You're right. That's a lot of information, but really indicates how much hard work and details gone into this. So thank you for doing all that. That's awesome.
Welcome.
Lots of information. I'm still wondering what Sally decided that she's actually going to do.
She can't decide.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm with Sally. Hey, the only thing I have, Don, the only question I have is, I think it's like the second slide. The vacation leave is paid out when employee ends, unless the employee is termed for cause or fails to work out a 2-week notice. So 2 questions. Can I use my PTO for my 2-week notice?
No.
Okay.
Not unless, I would say in general, no. I would leave that discretion up to, of course, the town manager to decide if there was extenuating circumstances, but under normal conditions, no. The point of the 2-week notice is transition from one employee to another if possible. So that overlap is probably needed.
Right. Well, with that, I mean, that's, I guess, where I would, everyone's situation is different. So so it would have to be concrete that, there should not be any extenuating circumstances, because if you do it for one, then, my situation could be important as someone else's, but maybe not as significant. So I think that maybe that needs to be looked at a little further. And then also, I get the vacation is not for cause. However, isn't this something that this employee has earned when they were in good standings? And so now something's happened. It's towards the end of the year. They've got all their PTO and they get termed and they get nothing. Although they've been in good standings the whole year, now they lose everything. Their 550 hours or whatever it is. I don't know. I mean, I get the reasoning. I mean, and I guess Jeremy's been behind this the whole time too. So it's legally, I guess we can do that. It just doesn't seem like a good feel good if I've earned it throughout my year, but then, unfortunately I got termed. Is there, for calls, is there different circumstances of calls that, I can't do the job anymore, so I got termed, and I do get my vacation, or I was a complete jerk and messed up all the equipment, and it's costing the town thousands and thousands of dollars, and it's against the policies and all, and I don't get my vacation. So I don't know. I just seems like there's a lot of could be some questions or some I don't know. Like I went back to the legalities of this, if that's the term to use there.
And I will say that as far as standards of conduct or term for cause, is the employees, they do sign off on the fact that they're going to be held to a standard of conduct, which is not, it's a list of items. It's not all inclusive. But then I think I'll leave it at that. And I think Jeremy wants to say something as well.
Well, I was going to say you could have, you can kind of split this any way you want to, Keith. You can, as long as you establish the parameters up front, I don't have any issue with the legality. What you can do is you can create a higher level willful misconduct or willfulness or criminal activity to lose it, to lose the pay time off, or you could go with the lower standard, which is what we have it drafted as right now, which would be just termination for cause. You do have some gray area, and there is some flexibility, I should say, as to how you want to structure that. In my experience, I've seen occasions when people have left under questionable circumstances and decision makers have been dissatisfied that they had to pay out paid leave in those circumstances. And that was the situation we were attempting to guard against here.
Well, I heard this, let me say, I heard this conversation or heard this presentation a couple of weeks ago, but Keith, you make a great point. The first point you make is the fact that if we've got an employee that gives us 2 weeks notice, and we've got the time to give them, to pay them for that 2 weeks notice, will we not give them that opportunity to leave the town, not work out that 2 weeks notice, because would they not be a virus maybe? I'm just throwing it, you know.
I would say, Mike, if they provide 2 weeks notice, then the employer could say, thanks, we don't need you to work the 2 weeks notice, and allow them to go ahead and leave, as long as the employee provides that 2 weeks notice, offers, I guess I should say, that 2 weeks notice.
The payment for that 2 weeks notice.
Correct. Well, I think what we're
Right.
trying to avoid is, we've had in the past employees that give 2 weeks notices. We've had both situations where we just felt that it was a really toxic environment to have that employee stay on board for
Sure.
that 2 weeks. So we have
Sure.
paid them the 2 weeks and parted
Oh,
ways.
I didn't get that. I thought I got that last time, but I got it. Okay.
And we've also had employees give 2 weeks notice and then just decide they're not coming back. So we're trying to try to umbrella all of that into one, catch everything we can and not leave it as maybe not as specific as to every situation, because you can't hit every situation, but give us enough room that we have the flexibility to work within it.
Yeah, I guess that was my question too, is the, you allow one person, because they're toxic to the environment, you're gonna go ahead and pay them their 2 weeks to not come back. However, I've been a really good employee. I've got another job and they want me to start in 3 days, but I got to give the town 2 weeks. And because I'm not toxic to the environment, I don't get my vacation time. So I mean, I guess it's kind of unfair, you're going to, and I'm not saying that we're doing this. I mean, we got some parameters in place, but to me, that would seem, I'm being punished for being a good employee. And because I have another job, I don't get my 2 weeks pay. However, if I become a jerk and toxic to the environment, you guys don't want me to come back and you're going to go ahead and pay me my 2 weeks. So to me, that's just not a good feel good if we go down that road there. So, I mean, that was my only questions on those two things.
Okay. I'm sure that's something that Jeremy and I can sit back down and see if we can construct something a little bit more feel good. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, I think that the point that Keith's making is, which is an absolutely great point, is that we're only talking about a 2 week span. So in that 2 week span, back to what you said, Donna, and back to what Jeremy was saying was, does the employee get to that point, we're talking about the 2 week span, that they deserve that benefit of that 2 week span? So I think the question is either yes or no. Keith makes some great points that the other day when in the budget committee. So with that being said, so do we look at the fact of they've given those many years to the town? Like he said, 3 days, a new employee will give them a job. So they get the job, they take the 14 days, but if they're not that type of employee that we think will walk away from the system, then can we write the process to where they don't benefit from that?
You can try.
Well, no, you can, now, I don't know about trying. I mean, I think we can say, so
We were
as we were.
focusing on it from the interest of the town and would the town be left in the lurch in certain circumstances? That's what we were trying to guard.
So explain that to me.
Well, just if you had a position where you needed to have, as Donna said, if you needed to have some overlap between two employees, where, you know, an outgoing and an incoming employee, or if you were in the middle of some project and even if it's not a function of overlap with a new employee, it's a function of completing work that is in the pipeline that needs to be done rather than just immediately hand it off to someone else. You can imagine situations in which the town could be left in a situation where it needs work done and the person who was primarily responsible for it has walked out the door. I mean, if somebody walked out the door, if Nathan walked out the door in the middle of Gish Mill, that I think would cause Pete some heartburn. He would like to have 2 weeks notice.
Well, yeah, but hold a minute though. And I'm not trying to negate the situation, and please don't think that I'm trying to negate it, but let's take your scenario of Nathan walking out on the Gish Mill project. If Nathan walked out on the Gish Mill project and there was only 2 weeks, I think that, you know, that's
2 weeks might not be enough in that instance. I agree.
Well,
with
I think
you.
2 weeks. I think 2 weeks would be. I think we can recover in that 2 weeks of hiring somebody. I'm just, you know, I just believe that once again, I believe Keith made a great point about the fact of you've got an honorable employee, and the fact of that 2 weeks, walking down on a project and leaving, yeah. So anyway, I mean, you know, I think you understand my point.
Sure.
Yeah, hopefully that doesn't happen. I guess my only thing was, like I said, if I'm a good employee and I don't get my 2 weeks, but yet I'm a bad employee and you want to get rid of me and I'm toxic, you're going to pay me my 2 weeks just to get rid of me. It just doesn't seem like that's something that we would want to do. As far as, I don't know. I mean, I'm not an HR. I'm not an attorney. So I'm just going off of, you know, how I would feel about that. Again, we're going to punish a good employee, but yet relieve a toxic employee and pay them to leave.
I do agree. I agree with you 100%. And let's go back to Jeremy's comment about Nathan. You know, if Nathan was with the town and being the reputable employee that he is, and is going to the next level in his job performance, I don't think that's a bridge that Nathan would burn. I think Nathan would say, okay, I'm going to do this, compared to to use your comment, Keith, about a toxic employee. And once again, I listened to this the other day and didn't hear this, but so anyway, I mean, I think y'all have got some notes and some information that we've given you, and you can kind of look at that and see where we go. So.
Yeah, but with all that said, Donna, great work. I know.
Great work. Oh, great work.
I mean, when you were explaining it, it was like a whirlwind for me.
Well, she explained to us in the finance committee meeting. It's like, and I think the mayor said, so I guess we need to decide on what Sally's going to do. What's Sally going to do?
You did an excellent job on that. I know it's a lot of work, and you were very good presentation. Thank you.
Thanks.
But let me add one more thing, Donna, to you and of course Pete and finance staff and everything. So when you look at the numbers in the finance side, and you look at where the long range, as we say, legacies and votes we're going to make and all that, this is great for the town of Benton compared to, you know, what we have, and you've done a great job. And so, yes. So let me say this. I mean, as far as is the benefit and getting through these little hurdles, but anyway, congratulations to the town staff, and congratulations to you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, well said, Mike. I mean, it's difficult to make that a perfect document, and we've heard it a couple of times, and it's just now starting to make a little bit of sense to me. But the bottom line is, I think staff has identified a liability that the town had and has tried to resolve it in the most fair way possible for our staff. And if we need to home it a little, so be. But you guys have done a great job. You know,
Amen.
yeah.
Amen to that.
Sounds like the employees are on board with it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good thing too.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, back to you, Pete. No, that's any other comments, questions? No? Okay,
Okay.
Pete, all yours.
All right. Well, thank you, Donna, for that presentation and the questions. We did take some good notes, and we'll discuss it a little bit further and review it with Jeremy and see if we can't make any tweaks. The next item this evening is presenting the town manager's recommended budget. So I'm going to show my screen again. And bear with me one moment. I got a lot open on my desktop here. Everyone see the budget?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, Mayor Gross and members of council, it is my pleasure this evening to present to you the town manager's recommended budget for fiscal year 21-22. I'm happy to report that the proposed budget is balanced and generally outlines an optimistic outlook for the upcoming year, largely restores the reductions that were necessary leading into the current year's budget due to the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, provides a well-deserved compensation adjustment for employees, and restores a much-needed capital improvement program that has been dormant for nearly a decade. My goal this evening is to provide a generally high-level review of the draft budget and highlight a few of the key distinguishers of the budget as it begins to deliver on the three goals outlined within the Council's strategic plan 2020 to 2025. A little later this evening, the Finance Director and Town Treasurer, Ms. Cantrell, will lead a slightly deeper look into the various aspects of the budget during our work session, and she'll provide some outline forecasts and trends that will help drive our operations in the coming years. The slide you see on the screen now is an overview of the proposed budget, and it's broken down into the different funds. There is an increase of $863,000 in the general fund. The grant fund includes an increase of just over $380,000. The utility fund contains an increase of $687,000. In the capital fund, an increase of $660,000, and the stormwater fund actually has a small decrease of just over $75,000. In total, across all funds, the budget totals $14,179,981 and represents a 21.57% increase over FY21. And again, a lot of those numbers are a little bit skewed because we did have a pretty minimal budget last year based on the preparation for what we anticipated as a really hard year with the pandemic that didn't necessarily materialize in all cases. And again, we'll go into a deeper dive on some of these numbers a little bit as we go, and then certainly in the work session. You'll see here, again, how we developed this budget was really guided by the three goals that town council adopted as part of your strategic plan: enhance the town's infrastructure and livability, maintain an efficient, high-performing government, and ensure the town's continued financial viability by actively pursuing quality economic development. So those are really the three guiding principles of how we try to strategize and prioritize the budget this year. The budget highlights include evidence of economic growth and a revenue rebound from the previous year. This includes meals tax, sales tax, and pari-mutuel doing extremely well despite the COVID pandemic. Continued focus on targeted economic development activities, such as the Gish Mill redevelopment we talked about earlier, the hotel recruitment, transportation improvement projects, and certainly our goals to enhance walkability. The implementation of a new classification and compensation plan. We commonly refer to this as the Virginia Tech plan. And we were able to, in this budget, achieve 2 of 3 phases that were recommended. We also included a 1% COLA, cost of living increase for all employees. So most employees will see a significantly larger impact in their compensation given the VT plan, but we wanted to make sure for those who weren't slotted correctly in the compensation plan to see that move up, that they would see some increase in the form of a COLA. We were able to maintain the free health insurance packages for employees. And we very, again, much needed, were able to fund the first year of a 7-year CIP. And this incorporates a lot of public infrastructure investment, both internal, I guess, more functional, as well as some aesthetic improvements that are more outward facing for the town. In this slide, you'll see that it represents the sources of our general fund. The red block there is our largest source, and that's other local taxes. This represents meals tax, business license, parimutuel tax, and other miscellaneous taxes. The next largest source is there in the orange, and that represents our categorical aid, which is made up of things like highway, street maintenance. The next is sales tax in light blue. That's the percentage of local funding that we receive through Roanoke County's, the formula and the Roanoke County collections of sales tax. General property taxes is in the slightly darker blue there. That includes real estate, public service corporation, and personal property taxes. The miscellaneous column is in green. That includes rental income from public properties and interest from some of our investments and some other smaller sources. And then lastly is non-categorical aid, which includes the funding you'll see there in purple, which is primarily the state PPTRA and some funding for the police department. The slide you see here is a breakdown of our revenues generated from that largest source of revenue in our budget. So it's such a large group. It represents a little over 60% of our total budget. And so we wanted to provide a little extra breakdown of what that is comprised of. So you can see there the various sources that end up generating that 4.8, almost $4.9 million. Again, 60% of our budget is derived from those tax revenues. And if I'm going too fast, please let me know. And again, this won't be the last you see of it this evening, but please slow me down if I move too quickly. Oh, I did want to say on these taxes here, you will notice that we are a largely consumer-based economy, the town. But what's important to note is it's not overly reliant on one tax source. So it is fairly diverse. And I think that helps us kind of weather some storms that can affect certain aspects of the economy. But in this case, we're fairly diverse, and we can make it through most issues. And this year was a great example of which. I also wanted to point out, I failed to mention ago, the bed tax to transient occupancy tax. You see, that's a fairly low number as it stands now. And that is something that we kind of our primary reason why we've been targeting the hotel recruitment so heavily, because that is certainly a revenue source that we could expand upon. And by recruiting a hotel to town could drastically increase our revenues quite quickly if we're able to accommodate a property. I would kind of compare it to the parimutuel tax. Just a couple of years ago, that didn't exist. And that's a very large revenue source for us that we're able to capture fairly quickly, almost overnight in some cases, if you look at it in the sense of a typical pace of economic development projects. This one came fairly quickly. So I just wanted to highlight, kind of that low number on the transient occupancy tax. If we could land, the hotel could drastically increase fairly quickly.
Hey, Pete, is that just for right now, that transient occupancy tax, is that just from Efficiency Inn?
Yes, the primary number of stays that are generated there exceed 30 days. Therefore, we do not collect the transient occupancy tax. So it is fairly minimal at that point. But a typical hotel, when you have stays that are a day to 3 nights, you would generate that 7% bed tax.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Yes. All right, this next budget represents revenues associated with the utility fund. As you can see, most of these revenues are derived from the fees for service. But it's very important to note that, we did incorporate the rate study in 2019. So we have realized some increased revenues, and that was really intentful, as you know, so that we could take on the additional debt service, which we just closed on not too long ago. And the three primary projects we're going to be tackling with that is the 3rd Street lift station, rebuild, the updating of our SCADA system, which is the control unit for our utility system, and then the completion of our radio read meters, not only just the physical meter itself, but actually some of the software on the back end and the antennas that allow us to do that. And so we do anticipate some American Rescue Plan Act funds. We didn't incorporate that into here. Primarily, those are going to be uses targeted toward utility projects for the town. However, we still just don't know all there is to know about ARPA money just yet. So we didn't build that into the budget, but I did want to mention it was on the slide because it could, we could be coming back to council in the near future to do a public hearing and ask you to accept those ARPA funds, and it would modify our budget and primarily likely impact our utilities quite a bit, which is a positive thing, but I just wanted to mention it's not built in currently. This slide highlights budgets by department. As you'll see, public safety remains our largest expenditure for the town. This includes the police department, animal control, and a portion of the E911 center. The second largest expenditure is public works. This includes highway maintenance, traffic signals, snow removal, refuse collection, recycling, and our building and grounds. And then our general administration, special programs, community and economic development performance agreements, you see kind of cycling down considerably after those two first departments. This slide, you'll see a breakdown of the positions across all departments. I won't read all those, but it's essentially very similar to where we were last year. The primary difference, we've moved some positions around slightly as we've reallocated staffing to accomplish our current needs, primarily in planning and the finance office. These positions still benefit all of the departments and the services we provide, but we've just reallocated some of the positions. This slide here is the first year of our CIP. This is a 7-year CIP forecast that we've provided. This is the first year that we have funded. There is quite a bit of a pent-up demand for equipment and infrastructure, and it's really rewarding to start seeing the ability for us to actually accomplish some of these projects. This total here, $835,000, I just wanted to give you a little bit of a breakdown. $285,000 of that is actually a transfer from current year fund balance, while the remaining $550,000 is derived fully from proceeds from the pari-mutuel taxes collected from Rosie's. So even despite Rosie's operating fairly limited this year due to COVID, it has become a fairly consistent and reliable source of revenue. However, I just wanted to point out that we have dedicated 100% of those funds towards CIP. So we're not balancing any of our operating budget with Rosie's funding. And why that's important to us is it does allow us to kind of be protected should Rosie's take a slight dip throughout the year. Or somehow not operate for some reason. It's easier to back off on capital projects mid-year or midstream as it would be to reduce staff or eliminate services mid-year. That would be really difficult to maneuver. So, one, it accomplishes a need of ours, which is capital improvement, and two, it's a little easier to speed up or slow down based off of performance. I won't go into all the details there. You've seen this at our strategic retreat. It is in your budget document. So rather than read all those particular projects, I'll forgo that. But you can see it's a lot of infrastructure projects internally, then some aesthetic outward facing projects.
Thank you very much.
Slide 11, let's see. This is the total debt for the town. So it represents all our various debt that we've taken on in the years past. You'll see there in the general fund, the total is 1.9. We have an annual debt payment of 444,000. The utility fund is 8.9, which includes the most recent issuance of 4.4 million. And you'll also see some asterisks there. That's a few of the older debt payments or debt issuance in utility fund that were successfully renegotiated to a lower rate. So it saved the town some considerable funds there. And the stormwater debt is equal to 178,000 and some change with the annual debt payment of 38. So in total, the debt across all funds is just over $11 million. This is a breakdown of expenditures across the different categories. So on the left of the chart there, you'll see, I have to read my notes here, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is a breakdown of the different line items within the different utility or the different funds. So you have personnel operating capital debt there and the type of expenditures, and then what we're spending in each of the individual funds. The far right, you'll see a percentage breakdown of what those expenditures relate to across those funds, and the totals across the bottom. This is the same chart. It's just in kind of a pie chart format, so it's a little easier to read. And you can see 40% of our expenditures are towards our personnel cost, 28 in our operating capital. It took a little leap this year with our funding of our CIP at 13%, paying off debt at 12%, and then transfers across the funds at 7%. I'm getting close, guys. And so this slide here represents our unassigned fund balance for the general fund. As you can see, as of June 30th, 2020, we were at about 3.7 million. We do anticipate drawing that down by just over 700,000 by June of this year, which would leave us a balance of just shy of 3 million. Some of the projects that we used this current year to draw down was see some CIP projects like the Clearview traffic signal, quite a few building upgrades here at the municipal building, including HVAC and paving of the parking lot. We have other projects such as stream bank restoration, the paving of Hardy Road from CVS to the town limits at Wolf Creek, and then also the funding the PTO conversion that you heard just a few moments ago. So I did want to highlight that this does provide compliance with our fund balance policy, and you'll see some of the percentage there on the chart. I think the last slide here is just the outlining remaining timeline of our budget. So we'll have the work session a little bit later tonight, and then June 1st we'll hold our public hearing on the proposed budget, and June 15th we'll ask council to adopt the budget. And just a couple closing arguments. Listen, I think I'm pretending to be the attorney tonight. Sorry. I would like to comment how smoothly I feel like the budget process went this year. This was largely due to beyond having an excellent team around us. It's a pleasure to work with this professional group, but it's also the defined vision provided by council. I sincerely appreciate all my coworkers and the leadership and their professionalism helping me and largely building this budget. This is a complete true effort, and I can't say enough about my coworkers. I would like to point out a few key folks. Obviously, the Council Finance Committee, Mayor Gross and Mike Stovall, they've participated and assisted in building and refining the budget. Even in a very short time, Cody has assisted greatly. Obviously, I can't say enough about Ann, our treasurer and finance director, of all the work she's put into this document. Susan Johnson, the town clerk, you guys have no idea how much she does to put together the different pieces of this budget, and it wouldn't be delivered without her assistance. Human Resources and Risk Management Director Donna, thank you for all your work. And this year, the financial analyst Brandon Gann assisted, as well as Nathan, in helping put together some priorities and some scoring of our CIP. So appreciate all their efforts. And I believe that is all I have, and I appreciate your patience while I got through that. And hopefully I didn't mess it up too bad. And then I'll turn it back over to, let's see where we are now. Oh, guess what? It's me again.
Yep. You're on a roll, man. Go for it.
Any questions on that so far?
Well, I guess we'll do the work session.
Yes, sir.
And then comment on the budget then and all the work. I mean, naturally, I don't know how many citizens are on here, but the citizens of the town of Benton to understand how strong this budget is through everything that we've come through, and what the biggest thing is that what we've done for the employees. I mean, it's difficult. It's difficult in good times to the fact that you give employees a raise, and we'll call it a raise because that's what everybody, whatever, and then your insurance, the insurance is, it matches the raise, or sometimes you don't get but a 1%, but right now to have a 0% with the insurance and then give employees a raise. But anyway, we'll talk about that in the, maybe we can get some citizens on for the work session, but thank you.
Yes, sir. Mayor Gross, the last item I have this evening this one requires action. This is as briefed at the April 20th meeting. Roanoke Valley Allegheny Regional Commission has reached out to the local governing partners to amend its charter to reduce its membership size from 38 to 30. This request really became as a result of the Commission's 2019 adopted strategic plan, which made a suggestion to restructure the Commission's board. The Regional Commission of Roanoke actually has the second largest board within the entire Commonwealth. And Mayor Gross, who also serves as the commission chair, suggested the commission establish the restructuring committee. And this committee took on the challenge of studying the matter and provided some recommendations on how to restructure. The executive director actually reached out to all the local government managers who participate in the regional commission and to get some feedback. And they were given some options in the final committee recommendation that was I guess blessed by the local government managers. Essentially followed these terms, which every member would appoint 2 members, at least one being an elected official. Localities between 25 and 50,000 in population will receive 1 additional appointment for a total of 3, and localities over 50K in population will receive a 4th. So, in this case, nothing would change for the town of Benton from the old to the new plan, although the city under this new plan loses 2 members. Roanoke County loses 2 members. Franklin and Botetourt, Allegheny, and Salem all lose 1 member each, with Covington, Craig County, Rocky Mount, Clifton Forge, and again, the town of Benton being unaffected. But it does result in a total reduction of 8 members of the commission. So it is a town council. You have a resolution in your packet this evening, and it is staff's recommendation that you authorize that resolution, allowing the Roanoke Valley Allegheny Regional Commission to change its charter and modify its board membership structure. Thank you.
So Brad, real quick, I mean, did somebody complain? I mean, was it just y'all decided you get the meeting, you had too many people? What was it?
Well, actually, most of this came out of a evaluation we had by CERTA, which is a national organization that looks at planning commissions and things like that. So they pointed that out initially. And of course, it was very apparent that we had such a big group. It was difficult for everyone to have an opportunity to speak or bring anything before the board of any significance. So it just really kind of become unruly, Mike, to be honest with you.
Right.
And I might say too, Pete did a great job in explaining that. It was pretty laborious endeavor, but kudos to the larger members, because they were the ones that gave up the extra members. You know, the bigger municipalities are the ones that were stepped up and said, we'll give this up for the sake of efficiency. So, that's just really a good example of valley cooperation, actually regional cooperation. So.
Well, the reason I ask that question is, as you've been in this game a long time, governments don't like to give anything up. They don't like to give positions. Everybody wants a stronghold, a foothold, and the more seats you got at the table, the more foothold you got. That's why I asked the question. So.
Yeah, well, that's a good question. You've been around long enough to recognize that, because usually people don't want to give up things, but it was just a really good cooperative move on the part of those larger localities.
I just feel for Botetourt. I mean, they lose one, plus they lost Cody. I mean,
man, that's a heavy blow right there, but that's a big difference there. Okay, so council, you have before you a resolution that would authorize Roanoke Valley Allegheny Regional Commission to amend their charter as been described. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay. I think I heard Mike on the motion, and Keith, was that you that made the second?
Other way.
It's the other way around.
Oh, the other way around. Okay, sorry about that. So Keith made the motion, I guess, Susan, and Mike made the second. Any other questions or discussions? If not, Susan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Lyles,
Yes.
Councilmember Mullins,
Yes.
Councilmember Stovall,
Yes.
Mayor Gross.
Yes. Thank you, folks. Pete, back to you, my friend.
All right, I just have a couple of quick updates under the manager's comments. I just wanted to put it out there for anyone that would be listening that may have family members or friends that could be interested. But we do have quite a few openings in our Public Works Department. We are seeking primarily operators. So if anyone out there has a CDL or knows someone that has a CDL that's currently looking, please contact our HR department, or they can look on our website for a listing of the positions. I also wanted to just publicly acknowledge and recognize Roanoke County Board of Supervisors and the Roanoke County staff for the assistance they provided on the Gish Mill project. They've been invaluable on the support they provided to us in these projects that we've kind of been on a run the last handful of years wouldn't be possible without their support. Both the staffing assistance, but also the financial support's invaluable and wouldn't be done without them. So just wanted to provide that. And then lastly, we have been working behind the scenes with RVTV to put a plan together so that we could return to in-person council meetings, but still provide a Facebook presentation for those who can't get out or have other conflicts, but still would like to see the meeting either live or perhaps as a playback function. So we're installing equipment into the council chambers, fairly minimal investment, so that we can continue to broadcast the meetings live via Facebook, even though council and staff will be physically present in the council chambers. That will also have a recording function so that we can play that back on our website. If someone were request to see it, we could send them a link to it. And then RVTV is going to be working on some additional playbacks as well of the recorded. And the the Facebook Live feature actually provides the captioning, so it meets our ADA requirements to caption our public meeting. So again, I said it a lot tonight, but thanks to Jeremy for his assistance on that guidance. Been working with Mayor Gross quite a bit on it, but obviously the staff, Susan, has done a lot of legwork on this to get this work rolling. We do anticipate returning back to live council meetings July 6th. So put that on your calendar. That's our target. We should have all the infrastructure in place with all the restrictions being kind of lessened. We have taken a lot of precautions in our building. So we are making some operational changes over the next couple of weeks to modify to some of the governor's and CDC guidance. But that is the anticipated return date to live council meetings. But again, if all goes according to plan, we'll have the ability to continue the live Facebook. It'll be seamless. And Mayor Gross, that is all I have this evening. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Pete. Obviously, we got a lot of great information this evening, a lot of important things going on, that's for sure. Excuse me. And with that, we'll move on to our reports from the council committees. Ann, it looks like you have the finance committee.
Thank
Please.
you. Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Okay, so the PowerPoint should now be up for our Finance Committee. We met last Monday and we had a full agenda. We discussed the body worn camera grant resolution, which was approved earlier tonight, the Glade Creek Greenway Phase 2B resolution. We also talked about planning and zoning proposed fee changes that will be in our work session later tonight, the paid time off policy and implementation review, March 2021 financial statements, and also the fiscal year 21 forecast update. So as of March 2021, our general fund revenues are at 92% of our budget expectation and expenditures are at 79%. A part of this is because we have now appropriated that resolution for fund balance, and that's why we're not over 100% like we were. So grant fund is at 41% of budget expectations and expenditures are at 40%. And then in the utility fund, the revenues are at 112% of budget expectations. Expenditures are at 100%. The capital fund revenues are at 38% of budget expectations. Expenditures are at 25%. And then in the stormwater fund, revenues are at 78% of budget expectations and expenditures are at 52%. So as of right now, our revenues are still coming in higher than all of our expenses. For the cash part of our financial report, the general fund cash is at $2.5 million. The grant fund cash is negative $112,000. The utility fund cash is at $1.7 million. Capital fund cash is $613,000. The stormwater fund cash is $179,000. So total cash across our funds is approximately $4.9 million. Restricted funds is $525,000, and then that includes police evidence fund is $28,000. The general fund investment account is at $2.3 million. The utility fund investment account is at $981,000. So our total investments is $3.2 million. So cash and investments together at the end of March of 2021 were $8.2 million. So some of the other items I mentioned earlier are here listed. The body worn camera grant was approved earlier tonight, same with the Glade Creek Phase 2B. The planning and zoning that has been moved to our work session. The pay time off was a council briefing earlier tonight. And then the fiscal year 2021 forecast update, that was a review of the April forecast data. And I'll see if I can actually move this over to the screen here. So this is the data that was presented to the committee. It's also in the Dropbox folder if you have access to that. It includes, as of April, a snapshot at where we think our revenues are going to end. So you can see items in green are forecasted to be above budget. Items in orange are forecasted to be below budget. And then that net figure at the bottom is where we think we will end up. So we had appropriated about, or planned to appropriate with the PTO about 1.4 million of fund balance, but we're actually only forecasting to use 722,000 of that. So if we excluded our fund balance, we would actually be $668,000 above what we had budgeted for the year. And that completes the presentation for tonight. And if you agree, I would respectfully request a motion to approve the March 2021 financial report. Thank you.
Okay, Ann, thank you very much. We appreciate that. Is there a motion to accept the finance report as presented?
There is, Mr. Mayor. I'll make a
Okay.
motion.
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Mayor,
Okay.
real quick before we vote.
Yes, sir, I'll second.
Mr. Mayor, real quick before we vote, Chief Drummond, let me ask you, so make sure, which I know the answer to, but I just want to make sure, the grant money is going to cover both body cameras and in-car cameras for every car that we have in the police department. Is that correct?
The grant covers body worn cameras only, sir, not the in-car cameras that are installed in the cars. And that only covers a portion of the body worn camera price tag.
But the police department is planning to use asset forfeiture funding to cover that, so it would not be town funding.
Okay.
Right. But I just want to make sure in the finance committee meeting, though, you were saying that all the money that's available, because both of them are I guess, joined together, body cams and in-car cameras, we're gonna install both of them at the same time. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah,
Thank you.
I don't know where you were going there, Mike, because I thought the same thing. But we're getting new body worn cameras and cameras in the police cars. That's the bottom
Yeah,
line.
yeah. But my thing is, I just want to make sure that every police officer has a body camera and a camera in the police car.
That is correct, sir. All the patrol
All right.
vehicles will have it.
Thank you very much.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, I think we have a motion by Councilman Stovall and a second by Councilwoman Mullins. I believe that's correct. I
Yes,
think
sir.
you made the second, didn't you, Lori? You made that second on that, right?
Yes, sir,
Okay, any
I
other,
did, yes, sir.
any other questions or comments? If not, Susan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Lyles,
Yes.
Councilmember Mullins,
Yeah,
Councilmember Stovall,
Yes.
Mayor Gross.
Yes. Thank you, folks. Okay, our next committee report is Public Works. Bo, I think you got that one, don't you?
Yes, sir, I do. Good evening, members of council. How y'all doing?
Good.
Good.
very good.
Works committee meeting, May the 12th of last week. In attendance was Vice Mayor Sabrina, Councilmember Lyles, Pete Peters, Cody Sexton, Jill Acker, Kenny Sled, Brandon Gann, and Nathan McClung, and myself. We went over 6 different items. The first item we went over was the radio read water meter install. Brandon Gann gave us an update on that. Couple of brief bullet points. Phase 1 ended in December of 2020 when we did $365,000 through CARES Act money to start the process. Phase 2 unfortunately got pushed back 5 to 6 months due to delivery of materials. Core Main has begun the permitting process for our 3rd Street tank and Canby tank for the antennas. And also Core Main and Public Works has been working on meter pits and conditions and assessment of residential areas. Public Works will start replacing some of the residential meters with some of the meters out there that are dysfunctioning. So we'll replace them with the new meters as we go through this process to help that out. And as of now, the completion date for this project is the summer of 2022. Second item we covered was the 3rd Street lift station and SCADA improvements. For the 3rd Street lift station, the CPC certificate application has been submitted to DEQ. Once that gets approved, we will go through Hurt and Profit to assist with the bid process. SCADA system update will begin in September. It will be a cloud-based system with modem replacements. And then that helps us communicate with all the wells and the towers just a little bit better. And that project is due to be completed May of 2022. Clearview, Hardy Road intersection, signal light. Materials came in this week.
Woohoo.
Installation should start the week of the 24th and be completed by the first week of June.
Hey, just for the record, so you guys know, when the agenda was presented to us, Bo's going in the order of the agenda that was presented. At the start of that meeting, I did ask if we could move number 3 to number 1, and that was the Clearview light. So we talked about that. Sorry.
Sure.
I think that money, Bo, I think that money we're gonna spend on that light in light of the fact that we're in the middle of a pandemic, Mr. Mayor, can we like delay that project for what, 24 months? Because I think we could like gain interest on that money and
I'll let you and Councilman Laws discuss that, okay?
Yeah, let's go on. Let's go on with that, and we'll have a party around the 1st of June.
we're gonna have a
Keith
ribbon
will be
cut.
leading the parade.
Yes, Council.
That's right. That's right.
Councilmember Mullins, we're gonna have a ribbon cut. We're gonna run a ribbon across the intersection. Nobody's gonna have a pair of scissors, but Councilmember Lyles, we're gonna stand on the sidewalks and let him cut the ribbon. That's exactly what we're gonna do.
I agree.
Sorry,
I think we should change the parade around and let it run through that signal light.
Oh,
With the
man.
parade if we need to.
Let's go all out. Okay. The next item we talked about, Nathan McClung presented some information about our paper alleys. We have a lot of paper alleys that we don't need. There's no utilities running through. And so we're going to start the process of gathering that information on what alleys need to be vacated. So you'll be seeing more about that in the next few months. That's a much needed thing. There's a lot of alleys out there. It's just, they butt up against properties and it's nothing but trees and it's not a benefit to a brief update on the bulk refuse collection. The numbers of the last 3 months have went up just for the mere fact it's spring, everybody's cleaning up. So our tonnage has went up a little bit, and also our man hours collecting that has went up because we are going every other week. I think in the next month or so it should level out. So it's not a big concern, but really too, also it helps us going every other week because of staffing issues. So it's helping us tremendously. The last thing I have is, with all the CARES Act funding that we've had and a lot of the improvements that all the buildings has went through, and there's always been kind of talk of Public Works kind of having their own identity. Say like the police department and the War Memorial, and everybody's got their own little branding. Pete, I don't know if you have that slide or not, but we was thinking about kind of doing a Public Works, a different logo. With this logo, it encumbers the maroon and the gold from the current symbol that we have now. The gray is a color that's a sign of modern times. And everything in the center is part of our core services that we provide through Public Works to the town. We permitted it to the committee last week. I think the guys here kind of like it, kind of gives them a boost in morale. They feel that take a little bit more ownership of the department that they work in. And we was looking for a recommendation that that council will, I guess, bless this symbol. This symbol will be on our trucks, letterheads, our uniforms, and then our hats.
Cool.
So that's all I have. So
All right. Well, thank you very much. I like that. That looks that looks great. It's awesome. Awesome. So, okay, Bo, thank you very much for that committee report. Do we need a motion to accept that report? No, just a matter of information. Okay, next item is staff, and the next item is mayor. And I wanted to thank the staff for, and I'll try to be brief tonight. There were several things I wanted to cover, but it's getting late and we still got some more work to do. And but there are just a couple of things I really feel like I want to mention. And first of all, that is the staff. They continue to just hit it out of the ballpark. They're working really hard. And you can see by our agenda tonight how much important stuff that we cover. A lot of really important information, such as Gish's meal, the paid time off, and of course the budget. So just kudos to the staff. I'm really proud of our staff, and just doing a great job. And of course, we did recognize the police department and the public works department earlier in the video. And there again, two great departments, part of an overall staff that's just really doing a good job. Just briefly, Cody, welcome to town. I'm really excited about working with you, and I think you're just going to fit in the team real well. The last item, and certainly not least, is I sincerely want to thank the Roanoke County Board of Supervisors for their support of the Gish Meal project. We're very excited about that project. But like so many things here in town, it just wouldn't happen without the help of Roanoke County. They have really stepped up, and we appreciate very much their support, and just feel like that we've got a great partnership there, and we're working well together. So just once again, thank you, Roanoke County Board of Supervisors, for your support of a really important project. And with that, I will turn it over to Town Council. Councilman Stovall, would you like to make any comments this evening?
I would. I first off, Mr. Mayor, echo everything that you've said. I said this a few minutes ago, being a member of the Finance Committee to the fact that, when the citizens of the town of Benton understand Mr. Peters and our administration and what we have coming through a pandemic, first off with the employees, and I'm gonna kind of divert a moment and honestly admit, Donna, I'm gonna take my hat off to you because, working with you, but now understanding when you did the ins and outs of explaining, or not explaining, but presenting the fact of the employees, and the biggest thing that I take my hat off to you for is the fact that I believe you have a strong heart for the employees of the town of Benton. And, that says a lot. And the second part of that is, Mr. Mayor, is the fact of insurance is zero. And then the fact of the raise as far as the town is concerned. So I take my hat off to everybody, and Pete, everybody, and all the employees. I agree with you, Mr. Mayor, as far as the Board of Supervisors are concerned. And Mr. Mayor, I take my hat off to you for this, the fact that, we come at it as a nonpartisan situation, to the fact that we want to make a difference for the town of Benton. Yeah. When I got here, there was things that I inherited that, as a member of town council, that I'm proud of. But since being here, we go at it as a nonpartisan issue, and then let people know and understand that, hey, we want to make a difference for the town of Benton, which we're going to do. And then the last thing that I want to say is to you, Bo, yes, take that emblem. I'll call it a badge. Take that badge, put it on your employees, uniforms, jackets, whatever it is, and let them understand, because I believe this. I believe this today. I'll believe this until I walk away from this life. Ownership is what it's all about. And when you give somebody that individual badge or individual patch you just showed, that's ownership of Public Works. They realize and believe that they have ownership in Public Works. Make that, give that to them, and let them understand that they have ownership. It's not separation from the town of Benton. Everybody understands that they're all in the town of Benton, but that gives them ownership. And I agree with that 100%. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Well
Thank you,
said.
Mike.
Okay, well said, Mike. I appreciate those comments, and I agree with you. So Councilmember Mullins, it's your turn. If you have anything further this evening.
Well, thank you. I want to say some thank yous, absolutely, to the Board of Supervisors, and we appreciate that. I can't wait to see what this project ends up looking like. We've seen the drawings, we've talked about it, we've thought about it, and it's just building excitement. And I hope all the citizens of the town can be as excited as we are about it. And just seeing people there cleaning up and doing things every day, I think that sparks some more interest, and I'm excited for that. And also thank you for all the well wishes and prayers from our last council meeting that unfortunately I had to miss. All is well, we're good. And keep the well wishes coming, because we have graduation, high school graduation coming up, and this mama's not going to make it. So just be thinking about that for next week for Chief Drummond as well. We're going to be, I don't know about him, but I might be a basket case. So just think of us through the next week. And thank you guys so much.
Okay, thank you. We certainly appreciate it. And hey, I understand what you're saying. Okay, Councilman Lyles, you have anything further for us this evening?
Yeah, just a few comments, Mayor. Echo what everyone else said, all Mike's comments, yours, and Lori's. Yeah, and to all the graduates that are graduating from Williamsburg this year through a rough, never seen before times, or at least in our lifetime that we haven't experienced. I think it's they've had a tough couple of years. Well, this last year being away from friends and school, it's not the same experience that we're all used to. So hopefully their graduation will be somewhat normal for them. With the Roanoke County Board of Supervisors, yes, thank them for that project of helping us with the Gish's Mill. However, also they've helped us behind the scenes as well with Smart Scale and the TPO, or the former TPO, with giving some of their allotted money back so we can finish some of our projects. That was very generous of them, because theirs was at a later date. So ours were closer up to I guess you could say, completion date. So they allowed us to be able to use some of that money to complete some of those. And last, just riding around our town and thinking about just over the last 2-3 years of the progress that we've experienced here as, council and staff and citizens of our town. River Park was completed this year. We're getting the mill is going to be complete. We're getting a new part of our greenways being complete. Vinton Motors was transformed, along with Cundiff's is under construction. Our downtown's being transformed with the Dogwood, Farm and Gesa, some outdoor dining. We're having a new bank downtown being built. Rosie's is expanding. We're getting a Tractor Supply. I mean, what better town to live in than the town of Benton, and everything that we offer our citizens. And it's the hard work of this staff. Pete said it earlier with Nathan and the planning department, everybody working together just to make our town one of the best around. So glad to be a part of it. I'm very proud to be a part of it, and proud to work hard to see it come to fruition.
Good job, Keith.
Yes, good job. That's exactly right. And I agree with what you said. We just got a great team.
Good job. Yeah.
Yeah. We're really being blessed for right now, no doubt about it.
I mean, somebody might have wrote that for him. I mean, I don't know if he said that himself, spoke off the cuff, but anyway, good job.
Well,
I'm proud of
yeah.
you. Good job.
You think about all the stuff that's just happened this year during a pandemic and how we were able to off.
Right.
Yeah, we didn't stop.
Yeah.
You know, we never. I've said it before. We never missed a beat, and we continue to keep beating that drum, and good things are happening. It's sounding really good.
Yeah.
Good job, bro. Yeah, good job. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, good
great,
points. Yeah, it's a great job.
great team, no doubt, no doubt. And I tell you, I think the positive attitude goes a long way. Nothing like hard work, that's for sure. And just thank the Lord for all the blessings. We really been blessed. There's no doubt about it. That's for sure.
We have that.
Okay, as you folks know, we have a work session, but we can go ahead and adjourn the council meeting now, unless there's anything further to come before council meeting. Nope. If not, we will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
I'll
to
make a
adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Okay, did you get that, Susan?
I think Keith did the first. You want to second it, Lori?
Sure, I'll second
Okay.
that.
All right,
thank
we have
you.
a motion and a second. All in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye. All right. Okay, so I guess those of you that don't want to attend or don't need to attend the work session can sign off if you'd like. But I guess we should go right straight in unless you folks think we need to take a break or anything. Kind of hard to do on Zoom. So you guys want to just jump on into the work session?
Yeah, I'm good.
Good. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Fine.
All right. So rumor has it, we're going to talk a little bit more about the budget.
Yes, sir. Go right on that. Okay, can everybody see the budget work session PowerPoint?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Great. All right, we'll get right in. I'll try to move as quickly as possible. Thank you guys for your patience. So the first topic we wanted to bring to your attention is the general fund. And I know many of you are probably asking, what is forecasted to happen in our main revenue sources this year? And Pete kind of hit on this earlier in the briefing. One interesting fact for Vinton is that 60 to 70% of our general fund budget is actually comprised of economy-driven revenue. And this is pretty unique for local government because most of your local governments are dependent on property-driven revenues.
And can I interrupt you 1 second?
Yes.
My battery's going dead. I've got to go get my charger cord, so I'm gonna leave and I'll come right back. Just keep talking. But I got to go get my charger cord because my battery's going dead.
Yeah, Mike, I had to do the same thing.
Yeah, it just come up. So I'll be right back.
And please feel free to stop me at any point during the work session. If you have a question, just feel free to jump right in. So the first revenue that we wanted to actually go over is meals tax. This is one of our top revenue sources for the town of Vinton. And meals tax increased in fiscal year 20, primarily due to the change in the tax rate from 5% to 6% in August of 2019. The additional 1% has allowed the town to perform much needed capital improvement and to keep up with increasing public safety costs. There is no tax rate increase assumed in the forecast data. It's forecasting a continuous rate of 6%. And the increase is really generated from additional restaurant activity in the trend data. So you can see here, the solid bars on the graph are actual data. This is what we have and what we know. The items with the lines in it is what we're forecasting or what we anticipate seeing. So going forward to our next revenue source, sales tax, this is another top revenue source for the town of Vinton. It decreased in fiscal year 20, primarily due to the end of the gain sharing agreement. That agreement had a set rate of 11.77%. With the new Roanoke County agreement, some of us are calling it the service agreement, the town reverted to its previous legislation and it now collects 8.64% of the Roanoke County sales tax. This rate can change each year based on the calculation of the town's population to the county's population. The increase in the data is assumed that is on actual results and a historically adjusted trend. It's also assuming that our rate stays pretty similar to the overall population rate of Roanoke County.
And can I stop you just really quickly?
Yeah.
Can I confirm with everyone that you see a PowerPoint presentation?
Yes, I do.
Yes, I see it.
Yes.
I do too.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so the next revenue source for the town of Benton is the business license tax, or sometimes you may hear it called BPOL. Business license tax increased in fiscal year 19 primarily due to a change in the tax rate that we made to match surrounding jurisdictions. The tax change also helped our small businesses by increasing the gross receipts threshold to $125,000 before the gross receipt tax is applied. Previously, some of our categories, they were all over the place, and one was as low as $10,000 when that actually kicked in. There's no tax rate increase assumed in this forecast data, and the increase that you're seeing in the forecast is just assumed on additional sales for our businesses. One just slight note, most of the trends that you're seeing are linear Excel trends. Communication sales and use tax includes amounts collected from the state of Virginia for cable and telephone. This tax used to be collected by the town, but the state actually passed legislation to set a fixed rate across the whole state. And it also included a mechanism in there to share revenue with the localities. So as cable, TV, and landlines continue to be disconnected, revenue continues to decrease over time. And you can see that to the forecast trend here on the left. It's just continuously forecasting a decrease over the next several years. The next revenue source we wanted to talk about is personal property tax and vehicle license fee, or VLF. Based on historical trend, personal property taxes and vehicle license fees continue to increase as new vehicles are purchased at a higher value. That increases your tax, even though your tax rate stays stable. The current rate is $1 per 100, and that remains unchanged for fiscal year 22. Town residents also pay to Roanoke County $3.50 per 100 on personal property. One thing to note, though, is the vehicle license fees only paid to one jurisdiction. So if you're a town resident, you pay that to the town. If you're a county resident, you pay that to the county. That's one thing that the town residents do not pay to both Town of Benton and Roanoke County. Another really interesting fact is that due to the global chip shortage, we're seeing some unusual short-term trends in personal property valuation. Used vehicles have increased in price due to a couple of the following scenarios. In March 2020, interest rates were near 0%. So this caused consumers to purchase vehicles sooner than they would have in the past. The reduction in car inventory happened with manufacturing plants being converted to produce ventilators and PPE. So we had less new stock than we used to have. And then lastly, large fleet companies chose not to replace inventory during the last year, and that reduced the amount of pre-owned vehicles on the market. So we actually have a shortage of used cars. So because of this, we have several citizens this year who have a vehicle that have an increased bill. And as far as I know, that has never happened before. So just one thing to keep in mind, that this is an unusual year in 2021 and that we're seeing this change in the used car market.
So for the purpose of citizens asking that question, you know, so they call and the answer they get is, oh, so you've got a used vehicle and it's, you know, it's a 2000 or 2020 and now 2021 but the value goes up. So if there's anybody watching, I guess, how do you explain that?
So we use, or I shouldn't say we, the County of Roanoke makes all the assessments for the town and the county, but they use NADA valuation, which I think comes from one of the local banks. And it's a set valuation that many localities use. we value the vehicle as of January 1st. So at that time, what that vehicle was worth, according to this national agency, is how that vehicle valuation is taken. So on one aspect, your used vehicle is worth more. So if you sold it today, you would probably find that you're getting a lot more than you're used to. But on the other side, your tax bill is higher because your vehicle is worth more. Kind of similar to what we see on our real estate. When the assessment goes up, your house is worth more. But on the flip side, you have to pay more in taxes. As far as I know, this is the one time in local government that this has happened. We had about 860 citizens impacted based on what I had heard.
That's incredible. So Mike, if you own a 71 model vehicle like I do, your whole bill was $3. So
Right.
Hey, it's kind of along the same lines as insurance. My old Jeep that I had, the insurance kept going up on it. I'm like, well, it's getting older. Why is it going up? And they came back and said, well, it's going to be harder to fix it now because the parts aren't available like they used to be.
yeah.
There's always something.
Always something.
Yeah.
Right.
So the next revenue source I wanted to talk about is parimutuel tax. After many years of vacancy, we were all excited when Colonial Downs building was reopened by Rosie's in May of 2019. Even after being closed the last quarter of 2020, the revenue they generated in those 3 quarters met the budget for the fiscal year. So without a lot of history on this revenue stream, what you're seeing in my forecast is the best guess based on monthly data provided. I will caveat this to say the forecast assumes continued growth in the pools that are invested in by Vinton Machine, which is the basis for tax revenue. This is one of the more complex tax revenues that we participate in because it's not necessarily based on the money flowing through the machines in Vinton. We get a percentage of the total wagering pool that those machines participate in. So you can see that can quickly get cumbersome because you don't know how many different wagering pools the machines are participating in.
And that's a really good thing for us.
Mm-hmm. The more machines, hopefully the more pools. So with their expansion, we're hoping that will increase the revenue, but still yet to be determined. Real estate tax, one unique factor of the budget is real estate tax only accounts for 4% of the town's general fund. Very, very unique in local government. The town did see a real estate assessment increase of 4.85%, but due to our low tax rate, it only equated to a budget impact of about $17,500. So the current rate for Vinton is 7 cents per 100, and that remains unchanged for fiscal year 22. But one thing to note, town residents also pay to Roanoke County $1.09 per 100 on real estate. It's unfortunate that Sabrina is not here tonight because this is one that I'm sure she is very knowledgeable on. Bank franchise tax. Banks in Virginia pay a franchise tax in lieu of business license and business tangible property taxes. This is a unique thing in Virginia. Banks must file a return to include the bank's net capital, which includes a ratio of local deposits to statewide deposits at the bank. The reduction in fiscal year 20 was due to an amended return from one of our bank mergers, and the actual trend for fiscal year 21 is based on return information we received from the commissioner's office. So the idea of the trend here is based on history, but for this tax revenue to increase, that means that our local deposits would need to increase. Opening more banks is a potential for that, but especially banks that have a large presence in Virginia where we would be a greater portion of their total deposits. Cigarette tax is the next one, and this one's kind of a sad story. The cigarette tax remains unchanged for fiscal year 22 at 25 cents per carton. And the town has based the forecast on a multi-year linear trend, which is showing a continual decrease over time. Many competing items such as e-cigarettes and vapor products are not covered on the cigarette tax. So that is one component, we believe, of the continuous decrease on this tax. As part of the most recent General Assembly session, counties were also given authority to charge a cigarette tax. And we're not sure at this time if this will actually have an impact on town revenues. I did, after our finance committee meeting, reach out to Roanoke City to see if they're experiencing the same trend that we are. And they had the same story to say that they are seeing a decrease over time, just like we are. There's also some questions on if stores aren't leaving the jurisdiction to another jurisdiction that's not charging cigarette tax, could that impact our revenue? Roanoke County did pass a cigarette tax.
That's right, right.
Could help us that we wouldn't have stores leaving Benton to go to the county just so they could avoid this tax.
So the county, of course, the county went to 25 cents also.
Yes.
Yeah. So I read that. Actually, I was reading the minutes the other night about, that presentation. So I missed that. So the city, what is the city? Is the city 25 cents?
I think they're 27 cents per carton.
27 cents.
But don't quote me on that, but I'm fairly confident on that. I talked.
And do you know, I'm sorry. Do you know what Bedford is?
I do not. I'd have to look that up.
Okay.
Now that's per carton, Ann, or per pack?
That's per carton pack. Are they different? I don't use
Well, I mean, I think. Yeah.
I think that's per pack.
It's
Yeah, I
per
think that's
pack.
per pack.
It's per pack. Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, that's ridiculous. Wow.
To be honest, per 25 cents per carton is not that whole lot. I mean,
Yeah.
like,
No, you're right. You're right. You're right,
Either-
Keith. It's 25 cents per pack. Yeah.
okay.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And but the town passed that, what, 6, 7, 5?
2017.
Oh, was it? Okay.
It was raised one year and then it was reduced again.
Yeah.
Back down to 25 cents. So going back to the revenue summary, this is one of the charts that was on the briefing earlier. You can see the largest component is the other local taxes. That's items mentioned earlier, like the meals tax, the business license, cigarette tax, and other items. The next largest category is that categorical aid, followed by state sales tax, miscellaneous, that's primarily intergovernmental revenue, and then general property taxes, and lastly, the non-categorical aid. The revenue in fiscal year 20 was higher than I anticipated, primarily due to the categorical aid. And actually in 20, we received $360,000 in asset forfeiture funding. And so that's accounting for that larger than normal revenue in that year. If you reduced that funding from fiscal year 20, you'd actually be at $8,082,000, which is right in line with our 22 estimate. And then one other thing to note, fiscal year 21 is actually projected to finish strong, almost 1 million more than we originally budgeted last year. So we have seen not only no reduction from the pandemic, but actually possibly a little bit of growth. The next item is the expenditure summary, and you can see here the largest spending is dedicated to public safety, followed by public works. And it follows logic because these two departments employ a majority of the town's positions. Transfers accounts for 9% of spending, which includes funding for capital and stormwater. General administration is at 8.9%. Community development and special programs follow in the range of 6%. Debt retirement is at 5.5%. Performance agreements at 1.29%. Retiree insurance is at 0.06%, and there's no contingency budgeted for fiscal year 22. So where is the general fund budget being spent? And I love pie charts. You can see here the largest portion is being spent on personnel. I think this is a key metric because you want to be spending an amount that will allow you to compensate your employees well and keep them, but you also need room within your spending to reduce costs during revenue swings that will not impact your people. So you don't want to see a chart that is really heavy on the personnel where there's no room for them to make cuts should revenue swings happen. You can see the next largest expense is operating, followed by fund transfers, debt, and lastly, small capital items in the main fund. And then in this chart here, we just wanted to show you over the last 4 fiscal years, the position summaries across the department. So you can see in fiscal year 18-19, we had 85 positions. This did include when we had the fire and EMS department. So in fiscal year 19 and 20, you can see the merger impact of those positions. In fiscal year 2021, we froze several vacant positions that year. We had 3 vacancies that were frozen, and then there was 1 position that was eliminated. And then in fiscal year 21-22, you can see we're actually restoring a majority of those positions. One thing to note there that the police department actually had a grant funded position that was not included in this budget. So that is one reason why they were not restored to 27.
Let me ask, just a sidebar. Is Donna, let me look. Is Donna, are you still on here?
Yes, sorry, I couldn't get it unmuted.
That's okay. So I had a friend of mine's son. He has been a excavator operator for about 7 years, and he's in a position to where the example that he gave me about 3 or 4 months ago, he would walk out on a Friday night with his wife, getting ready to go to dinner, and his company would call him and say, hey, you're the lowest guy on the totem pole, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so I was talking to him. Actually, we were duck hunting together, and I was said to him about applying for the town of Benton, and I didn't hear anything. He didn't reach out. And I saw him 2 weeks ago, and he said something about that he called, and he was told that in order to go to work for the town of Benton, he had to go to work for the mowing, weed eating crew. I mean, I don't know. Is that, I mean, he just said, and so I said to him, well, his name was actually Chip, CHIP. And I said to him, I said, well, Chip, I'll ask. And I hadn't had the opportunity, so I just thought I'd ask right now. I mean, is that a criteria that we look at, or how does that work?
No,
Oh, sorry, Mike, real quick. Ask Cody Sexton. He had to do his 3-week orientation on the mowing and weed eating crew too before he.
generally speaking, it depends on their experience. If we can get somebody in the door that has greater experience in specific areas, then it doesn't matter. It's not a default to move them to the ground crew. Generally speaking, the pool of people that we're getting, we don't have a lot of experienced applicants coming through the door. So we start them on the grounds crew until we can feel where their strengths are, what they need to work on. Because that's generally speaking the easiest crew to put them on to assess that. You don't want to put them in a situation as far as being on the street crew or anything like that, where they potentially hurt themselves or someone else operating equipment they're not capable of operating. But in general, though, what we try to do is just evaluate where the person, what their skill level is. And I'm not saying that they don't come in the door and go on to the mowing crew or the grounds crew. But what I am saying is what we try to do is assess what their skill level is. So anybody that can possibly come in the door that has some, base knowledge and some experience, be more than happy to look at where to put them. It's not a default that it goes right to the grounds crew. It's just honestly, the applicants that we're getting do not have a great deal of experience. So it's the best place to put them that we can assess what their skill levels are. I hope that answers your question.
It does. Who answers that phone call? Public Works?
I'm not quite sure. I didn't get that phone call. So I don't know who answered that particular phone call. But that's usually my question. My answer is basically what I just gave you as far as where they would be placed.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so one of the key components to the fiscal year 22 budget is the pay classification plan. Virginia Tech consulted with the town of Benton to provide a new proposed pay classification plan early in 2020. Due to the timing of the pandemic, and at the time we really didn't know what the revenue impacts were, the town suggested that we delayed the implementation of the plan for fiscal year 2020-2021 budget. The town manager worked with HR and finance and updated any position classifications impacted by restructuring and or efficiency changes over the last 12 months. And then for the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget, the town is proposing to implement 2 out of 3 recommended phases of the plan. The town is planning to implement the final phase of the plan in the fiscal year 2022-2023 budget. And so I wanted to show you some of the examples from the original plan to the new plan. A labor starting position currently is 26,000, and then on the new plan, the minimum would be 27,000. All the way down to an officer is currently at 39,000, and the new pay would be 40,000 for the minimum. And then the sergeant at 45 would be moved up to 54, and then the public works director at 67 would be moved up to 76. So you may be looking at the other pieces of the plan and asking, well, the midpoint and the maximum seems to go down. One of the refreshers from Virginia Tech is they said our original plan actually had a 40% difference between the minimum and maximum. So if you planned on your employee progressing through the plan at 1% per year, it would take them 40 years to go from minimum to the maximum. So the recommendation that they made to us was to actually draw it into a 30-year plan because that matches the VRS plan. So the minimum in the midpoint and the maximum, there's a 15% difference from midpoint to minimum and midpoint to maximum. And so to kind of show you what they did is they actually just took our plan and they compressed it so that it would fit into a 30-year window. And then they also stretched out our positions so that we had more room where a supervisor wouldn't be making less money than somebody that they're supervising. So to try to build in some of that depth into our plan. So the status on the phases, phase 1 is fully funded. This phase moves all employees to the minimum of the new classification plan. Phase 2 is also funded. This phase moves all employees 1% per year in current position through the classification plan up to midpoint. And then phase 3, this is the status that is not funded. This phase awards employees tenure by increasing pay $100 per year of service for those employees with 5 or more years of service with the town. And so that final phase is proposed to be completed in the following year budget. And then just another brief overview of our unassigned fund balance. So we ended very strong in fiscal year 20 with a fund balance of 3.6 million. And it was actually 49% of our revenue budget. So in fiscal year 21, we're proposing to use that 694,000 based on current forecasts, and ending fund balance would actually be 2.9 million. And with some of the use of fund balance, that percentage of annual budget is actually less than the next year that we're showing. So in fiscal year 22, we start with 2.9 million, but it would actually be the 37% of the general fund budget of revenues. So our policy floor is 2 months of 16.67%. Our policy target is 4 months at 33.33%. An additional fund balance can be appropriated by the council above that 33.33% for capital projects and any one-time expenditures. Another component of the budget is proposed fee changes, and I'm sure Anita will be happy to step in and answer any questions on this. Many areas, the town fees are not quite covering our current costs associated. We're also one of the lowest fees in the area. And so we've proposed fee increases to help bring us in line with the other localities around us and to help fully recover our current costs. So you can see the administrative appeal there, it's $250, and we would propose to add a $250 legal ad fee. And then some of these charges for copies, there's currently no fee structure to charge for copies. And so there's been a fee structure added in there. And then in rezoning to increase that, instead of having a fixed plus a per acre, to go to more of a just fixed cost. And then you'll see kind of the same tradition here on some of these rezonings and sign permits. It's going from a fixed plus per to just a fixed cost that's higher.
I'll just add to that, that these are comparable to our jurisdictions that surround us.
And then here's
Can
the
I
last.
ask kind of a silly question?
Yes, of course.
I'm sorry, do I have a delay? I'm sorry. The site plan review that was on that previous slide,
Yes.
I know I just paid one to the county, so I think that's why it caught my eye. What is that exactly? What does that cover? I mean, I guess what I don't understand is why are we charging for somebody doing their job of the site plan review? Like, that's what I just don't understand. Just curiosity.
Council Member Laurie, as far as that site plan review fee is the staff time, the planning and zoning staff and public works staff, when we receive a site plan review, we want to make sure as far as, meeting the zoning requirement, whether there's water and sewer charge, whether there's any existing, whether connection, the water and sewer, things like that. Those are what basically involved. As far as Roanoke County charges, does include their erosion and sediment review fee. Anything that is an acre or more, then that will be stormwater fee included in that Roanoke County. The town, of course, we have separate zoning requirement. Those basically the time that the staff time, and then the way that review comment, we have to submit it to Roanoke County, what they call on-base review. So basically the time that staff spend reviewing the application, reviewing the proposed development or redevelopment to meet all the requirement of the land use for the town.
Gotcha. Thank you so much. I knew I would get a good explanation from you guys. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
So,
Yeah. So with
well,
that,
sorry, go ahead.
well, I was just going to ask a question to Anita. And I know these are proposed, so all this will go to Planning Commission and then to Town Council eventually, correct? Am I right, Ann? Or this is proposed, so.
The way that most of the rate increases are set is that it would be adopted in the budget. So town council would have the option to either approve it as part of the fiscal year 22 budget, or you would have the ability to not approve it.
I mean, each individual description, or like, because we're going up on everything, and just curious as some of the things that we're going up on, we've talked about in our plans with the Planning Commission and redoing the ordinances and things like that. So I know a lot of that goes before the Planning Commission, Town Council, and to have, well, just my opinion, but to have it just thrown into a budget, a notebook that I got at 4 o'clock today, and all these are in there too. This is a lot to look at and take into. Just, I don't know, we've got some time, but I thought it was more of a longer process than that, as far as all of it, like the sign permit. That's been an ongoing complaint. I'm glad we're doing something about it. It looks very reasonable. However, this is the first time I've seen it. So I guess part of my thing was, being on the Planning Commission and having other commissioners on there and them not to be able to see any of this or any of what's going on. So they're up to date on what we used to do, what we're going to do. I just didn't know this was the way that we did this. I'm sorry.
This is consistent with our other fee schedules that are included in the budget. This is a draft budget. We did present it to the Finance Committee a week ago. for their reaction. So again, there is room for debate, and we don't have to implement it as part of the budget, but it is the manager's recommendation to update these numbers based on what our counterparts are charging. And in some cases, not all of them, but in some cases we lose money when we place ads, as for example. So again, it's not required. It's just what we are suggesting.
Yeah, fair enough. And, again, my apologies for not knowing that this was like, and I don't want to use the word, but tucked into the budget. I thought it was be more involved as far as some input as how these figures were arised, and things like that. So, and I'm not on the finance committee. So again, this is the first time I'm seeing this. I'm just speaking as far as the planning commission and some of the other things that were worked on.
Sure.
Just never part of it. So
we again,
Well-
we if it pleases the council, we can pull this out and take a different
Yes.
approach
Yes.
to review it with the planning commission first. No problem.
Well, yes. Mr. Manager or Pete and Keith. No, I agree. And he's right. And if you look at it from Keith's perspective, yeah, so do we extract that? Because so let's look at let's look at site plan review, which Keith brought up.
well, it up, but that's what I was really pointed out to me. And the reason for that is it's $250 right now plus an acre. Who has more than an acre? Not a lot of people have more than an acre in the town of Benton. You're going to jump up from 250 to 600. So, I mean, that was one of the things that stuck out in my mind. So sorry, Mike.
No. So yeah, I mean, I think you make a good point. In fact, with that being said, so what is Roanoke County? So Roanoke County would come in for the plans also, for the review of the plans. Is that right? Or do we know that?
Yes, sir. Roanoke County, they also charges will be a site plan review. As far as Roanoke County, they will charge the erosion sediment controls site plan review $250 plus 50 acre and acre or more. But then if the site is an acre or more, not only the applicant have to pay the erosion sediment control review fee, they also have to pay for the site plan review of $1,350 because of the stormwater requirement, which will involve submittal to DEQ. Those are part of the Virginia Stormwater Management Program fee requirement. So they will pay the county for their engineer to review, and then they pay the town portion of the site plan review for the town staff to make sure, not just for the zoning requirement, but also for public works department as far as to review the water sewer requirement, things like that.
So, okay, well, thank you very much. So I think Keith makes a great point. So if we extract this right now, and then I think we take these fees along with the county's fees and run them side by side, and then we can decide, can we not, Madam Finance Director, can we not decide on what we're going to do as far as the proposed budget is concerned?
So the proposed budget schedule, or the adopted budget schedule, we have advertised a public hearing on June 1st, and then council adoption is on June 15th. So if we don't do the rate increases with the budget, that's totally fine. We've done rate increases separately before, or we could forego them altogether, but you do need to advertise and hold a separate public hearing for the rate changes.
So can we not advertise the rate increase and do it on the 15th?
So if it's as part of the budget document, you don't need to do it separately.
What we're saying is, if we pull this out of the proposed budget, that, and we go through the planning commission at a later date, we would have to then do another public hearing, which is fine, it's perfectly fine.
Which is fine, yeah. Public
Later in
hearings
the
don't have
fall,
anything.
September, October timeframe, and at your discretion at that point, adopt whatever rate increases that the planning commission and then the council, if we run it through a separate committee, perhaps, we would just do it as a separate from the proposed budget. It doesn't need to be included. We haven't factored any revenue gains based on these permit adjustments. We would
So
just-
no, so why would we have to go to the fall? I mean, could we just not do it?
There's not adequate time to do it prior to adopting the budget if it's not included in the budget. So if you want to pull it out, we'll pull it out. But it will, we could do it in June, July, take it a little bit forward to go through the proper committee structure or planning commission.
If I may, just, I didn't mean to cause turn this thing upside down. Again, it was the first time I saw it. As I'm looking through and doing some math, I mean, Lori would have really made out with the proposed rate versus what she had to pay probably. And, so it's going to be give or take throughout. My only thing is it was the first time I was seeing it, but if we have some time, plus we're going to have a public hearing, if anybody in the public wants to say anything about this and wants to oppose anything, then we can deal with it at the public hearing and keep moving forward. If this is the way we do it, I'm fine with it. I mean, I don't want to change anything. I just was, needed some time to look at it. I didn't know that the planning commission and the other commissioners weren't involved, but I thought this is part of our new ordinances that we were looking at as well with the sign permits and stuff like that. I mean, they all look reasonable. I think with a public hearing, if we stay on schedule with the public hearing, and if the public has any questions or objections, and as council, we can at that point decide what we want to do, if that's a better avenue to go down. If there's no objections, I think we go through it. These are outdated anyway. We all know that all of our ordinances and some of our everything are outdated anyway. So we have to do this. And by no means did I want to stop it or anything like that. I was just getting some clarification, maybe making a recommendation.
Keith, my apologies for
Right.
not providing some additional context to this earlier. What I will ask Ann and Anita to do is, I believe it was in the finance Dropbox, but we'll place it in town council Dropbox, the comparable data so that you can see what our counterparts are charging. It may help just kind of fill in some of the gaps of why we came up with these proposed numbers. They weren't necessarily arbitrary. They were based on other information, other jurisdictions. So we could somewhat be consistent, but we'll provide that data tomorrow. We'll put it in a Dropbox. You can have some chance to look at it. And if there's additional questions that any of you have, by all means, reach out to me and Anita, and we can discuss it. And we can again move forward to the public hearing and receive comment, because then we have another 2 weeks that we can pull it back out. If you choose June 1st to pull it back out, then we can update that. June 15th, we adopt it, we can have it either included or not included. So we do have adequate time, and that's exactly why we have this extra work session built in, is to flesh out some of these details. So it's no problem. But I do apologize, probably a little bit of a error on my behalf and how I presented certain pieces of this information. So I
don't think it's an error, but I was saying to Keith, the only point that Keith made was, Keith, are you okay with the planning commission as far as it?
Oh, yeah, I just thought that this was part of some of the stuff that the planning commission zoning was working on. And I was just asking a question, since it was proposed, would this go to the planning commission and then to council? And when I found out it was just in the budget, that it's going to be approved. So, I mean, the more I think about it, like I said, we're having a public hearing. If the public wants to object or have questions or anything, and we have questions, we can do it then. And so don't stop anything, don't pull anything out is what I would say. And there's a lot of work that went into this. We're on the right track, and just see how it plays out.
Keith, I tell you what, I think you made a really good point. And like you said, we're going to go through the public hearing process. But one thing too that I wanted to point out, you're right. The the finance committee, which Mike and I are members of, did see this, but that's not the end all to that. I don't think just because our committee, any of the committees report something, I think that should be looked at as a recommendation, and that's not the final say. So I think it's altogether proper for you to have questions, even though the finance committee had seen it. That's no problem at all. Although I do agree with you, we've got the public hearing built into this process, so that obviously the public will have an opportunity to comment.
Yeah, and I'm perfectly fine with that. And sorry to derail us, you guys.
Oh, listen, I don't see a problem.
Oh, no, I started that. I'm sorry.
Well, that's what work sessions are all about, right?
Yeah.
That's not a problem.
No problem at all. I'd rather do it at this point
Yeah.
than the night we were trying to adopt it. So this is part of the process. No worries whatsoever.
Absolutely. The process is working.
Yep.
If
Okay.
I may, Mr. Mayor or Pete, as far as site plan review, Laurie, Council Member Laurie, just to, for clarification, for single family residential, we do not, site plan review will not kick in. Site plan review is for 3-family and commercial development and subdivision review, which is 5 lots or more. So any single family, 2-family development, we only pay zoning permit.
So I'm sorry.
Okay, that's interesting. I
So
think it just caught my eye because we just paid a huge amount to Roanoke County.
Well, yeah. So
I think that's why it caught my eye.
So the site plan review of $250 plus $50 per acre, that's not for single family?
No, sir, site plan review only kicks in when it's commercial development or redevelopment. And how we categorize commercial is 3-family unit, 3 residential unit or commercial. 2-family, single family does not fall under commercial, will not require site plan review. So that will be zoning permit, basically. And then Roanoke County, they do require site plan review if the lot is an acre or more because of the stormwater requirement, but not for the town of Vinton. We will not require site plan review for single family or 2-family development.
Perfect. That helps a lot.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, Keith, I did just want to add, you were right on your track of mind because Anita and I probably spent, I don't know, maybe a day going back and forth trying to find whether it was in the code and we had to amend the code, or if it was in the fee schedule and we just had to amend the fee schedule. And we found it, I think Anita found it in the code that it references that all of these fees are based on the approved fee schedule of the town of Benton. So I had the same concern that you had. We were trying to locate it in the code.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sam.
And just for clarification, we have been discussing about these proposed fee changes for a long time. If I'm not mistaken, this fee was adopted in 2002.
Wow.
Okay. Wow.
Well, about time we move on it then, huh?
And I mean, as far as the big fee, as far as the charges is the advertisement fee when we have rezoning variance, because by the state code, we have to advertise it on 2 consecutive weeks. And in the past, we're trying to set a joint public hearing of the council and planning commission. And just the cost of advertising those legal ads has gone up for the last 5 years or more. The last 10 years has keep going up as far as the legal ad costs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, I think the rates are certainly going to be in line, you know, there's no question there, in my mind.
Yeah, we beat that one enough. And you move on. Sorry to derail you.
No problem. Thank you, Keith, for asking. I appreciate that. For the grant fund, we really only have two revenue sources that we're approving in this budget: the VML Risk Management Grant and then the Clay Creek Greenway Phase 2B. So in the resolution tonight, we approved an apportionment for the pathway, the $30,000 that we're receiving from them, but the actual budget appropriation of this grant is included in the fiscal year 22 budget. So the total grant appropriation is $384,800. And it's really amazing when you look at the fiscal year 2021 projected of 1.8 million. One thing to note on this account is it's what we consider a multi-year account. So we take the grant to council for approval, and then after the annual audit and we know how much of the funding is left over, we actually roll forward that remaining balance on the grant. And the expenditure summary matches exactly the revenue that we should be receiving from those sources. And so then our favorite new item, capital fund. It is currently 100% funded by transfer in from the general fund. One thing to note, just for clarification, we don't have any utility fund activity in this account. So this is a capital projects fund solely for government, for general governmental fund activity. So 550,000, Pete mentioned that earlier, is 100% of the Rosie's proceeds is going into the account for fiscal year 22. And then we're also using $285,000 of fund balance that we sent to the account this year.
you know, that's something that we should be proud of. Yeah, because we didn't, what was it, 2005? Is that what it was? They stopped the capital fund account, and so yeah, and so yeah, congratulations.
Yeah.
So the only detriment to having the account closed for 10 years is we have recognized several needs identified by the town. So in fiscal year 20, it's great to see we had $202,000 that was spent, but this is missing. We put $350,000 aside for a match for Mountain View Road. So you won't see that as an expenditure, but it is sitting in the committed fund balance in the capital fund. In fiscal year 21, we only adopted $175,000 in our capital fund budget. And this was just to make whole that Mountain View Road match for that grant. So as of now, we do have the full balance of our match in committed fund balance. So one thing to note that due to CARES Act funding, the town was actually able to use some of our public safety budget to transfer it into the capital fund to cover many of the capital improvement items around the town. And then in addition to that, town council was able to appropriate fund balance to complete many more needed items, bringing the total projected expenditures for fiscal year 21 to 1.7 million for the capital fund. And then many of the projects planned in the fiscal year 22 budget are included here, and you saw them earlier. And one of the things that probably as staff I'm most excited to see is we actually have a fully funded 7-year CIP plan. And what that means is that we have balanced out our needs with available revenue streams so that we can fund these items by cash over a 7-year period. So for fiscal year 21-22, we have the items listed here. I know you've seen it several times, so I'll try to just go through several of these. So economic development, software, traffic signals, museum repairs, very impactful things. And then in fiscal year 22-23, we're doing taser and radar replacement, pool closure, skate park, planters, grant match, traffic signal improvements, and sidewalks. So very impactful. And then in 23 and 24, traffic signal improvements, a new dump truck, replacing sidewalks on bypass roads, some fuel improvements. And then in 24 and 25, more traffic signal improvements, bridge maintenance, and sidewalks.
Hey, Ann, one of the things I noticed is like, and again, we said based on Rosie's, as that new parking garage is finished and that 18,000 square foot is finished, that number every year could increase, and this fiscal year could like be greater per fiscal year, right? Correct? And we can add more projects to this 2020, 24, 25 and things like that. Because we do anticipate, I mean, this is what they're paying us like we get now, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so when we add, 350 more machines, when they add around wherever, we're gonna see this number increase. So therefore, we should be able to do more CIP projects.
Yes, hopefully what you can do is you can take your 7-year CIP plan, you can condense it, and you can actually get your programs completed sooner. And you're going to identify more needs throughout the town.
And one other thing that we haven't necessarily identified in the CIP is some of our paving and projects. So we could spend a considerable amount more on our paving, certainly, and improve some of our neighborhood roads and then our major corridors. So we're keeping an eye on that. There's some potential for some grant funding coming. But as Ann said, we condense the CIP, get this list done quicker, but there's certainly things that will become new priorities that aren't even identified yet. We'll add those in. It'll be a fun problem to have if Rosie's can continue to produce.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. This is going to be fun to watch this list get completed a lot sooner than 24, 25.
I think Keith had fish today, don't y'all? His brain power is going strong. You done thrown out 3 things. I'm proud of you, brother.
Oh, goodness.
So moving along to 25 and 26, actually finishing the funding for bridge maintenance, traffic signal improvements. This is where we have slated a Mountain View Road contingency in case that project comes in over budget, and then connection and transfer switchgear. And like we mentioned, all of these are inter-replaceable. You can move them, anything that needs to be done for priority. And then in 26 and 27, several guardrails projects, enclosed equipment shelter, roof replacements, building repairs. And then in 27, 28, so this would complete the 7-year CIP program, reconstruct parking lot, replace a backhoe, Wolf Creek Greenway bathroom, refuse truck replacement, and then completing some guardrails for $632,000 total that year. And that's the capital fund. So the next item is utility fund. And this is our utility forecast based on our current trend. So this trend does assume the town will continue a 6% increase on service costs and an 8% increase on the usage rate until fiscal year 24. The town does anticipate a use of fund balance for fiscal year 22 and possibly into fiscal year 23, depending on our consumption billing and where that comes out. But it is encouraging to see that trend and how it's performing. One highlight here is fiscal year 21 is actually much higher than we had originally forecasted and budgeted. So very good to see that. Probably not so good for those of us who had high water bills, like myself, who had a toilet leaking this last couple months, but anyway. Revenue summary. So you can see that almost 100% of our revenue is coming from operating revenues. Another portion is coming from use of fund balance for fiscal year 22. And then we also have a small amount that's use of money or interest income, and then recovered costs, such as disconnect costs. And then if we turn over to our expenditures, you'll see here the main expenditure is water and sewer fund operating costs. This is followed closely by personnel and debt. Smaller items include capital funding and transfers to the stormwater fund. And if you look at the graph to the side, you can see that water operations, wastewater operations, and debt are fairly equal pieces of spending in the utility fund. Administration is the next largest, followed by customer accounts or billing. And then the smallest portion is purchased water and transfers. So the next slide is unrestricted fund balance. So this is what we currently have in our utility fund. A couple things to note, there's currently no fund balance policy for the utility fund, but the above meets the general fund target and is actually exceeding it on all accounts. Debt with covenant requirements was refinanced in April 2021, and this was to allow us to use fund balance for fiscal year 21. And then with the Davenport and Company proposal, the plan is to use fund balance in fiscal year 22 and then begin to add to fund balance again in fiscal years 23 and 24. So based on fiscal year 2020 actuals, we ended that year at 59% fund balance. And then our projected ending for fiscal year 21 is 59% as well. And then our proposed, even with usage of fund balance, is at 49.46%. And then our last fund is stormwater. The revenue is 100% covered by transfer. So this is from the utility fund and the general fund. And this is going to be in place until stormwater could actually have a fee mechanism to support itself. So in the expenditure summary, you'll see the largest portion of spending is operations, followed closely by street cleaning and administration. And the smallest portion is debt retirement on the street sweeper. And then the last slide here, and thank you for hanging with me, is on debt. And you can see here, this actually includes our 2021 debt issuance. Also in italics about the top 3 debts under the utility fund. Those are revolving loan funds, and the town and Davenport have worked together to get a reduced rate of 1%. So that transaction should be completed within the next month. And that completes our budget work session tonight, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
I'll tell you what, we've gotten a lot of good information tonight. It all sounds encouraging. I think our budget will allow us to do a lot of good things in town. So I'm very encouraged by that.
Me too. Great presentation, Ann. Very detailed and, sorry to derail us on some things, but it was a learning opportunity for me as well. So that's what this work session's all about. And,
Right. That's exactly right, Keith. That's what it's all about. I learned a lot in that discussion too. So yeah, as always, Ann, great job. Man,
Great job.
Yeah, awesome.
Definitely a great job. A lot.
Yep. Thanks to Anita for clearing a lot of things up too. It's good to have the knowledge of Anita. What I call it, the Anita knowledge.
Yeah, Nita, one thing about Nita, Nita brings a lot of knowledge to the table. Yeah.
No doubt about it. Well, our entire staff does.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And the more Pete hangs around with all them, the more smarter Pete looks. I mean, look at him. I mean, he's got
He's got a John Kennedy. Hey, he's got a JFK Kennedy glasses on. He's
They're looking good, man.
Hey, he put a towel on tonight. Look at him. Put a towel on.
When you ask for money, you have to wear a tie. That's just a rule.
Is that a rule? Okay.
It worked pretty well too, man.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, folks, I don't guess anything else. Any other questions or comments?
No, just good job, everybody.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. Thank you.
Yeah. Very good job. Very good job. Good to see all of you. And unless you guys are planning to order my breakfast in, I think I'm going to sign off here.
Well, I think we have to adjourn the work session. Go back in there and do something, Susan. We know you're on mute.
This is just a work session, so I guess we just sign off. Yeah.
Okay. Usually we would go back into council and do that. So that's why I asked that. Susan, you're on mute.
That was a closed session, wasn't it?
Reading my lips? No, that would be like a closed session. Work
That's
session.
closed session, we do that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
We're good.
need some of those glasses that Pete has to make me smart.
You need a tie, Keith.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
There you
There
go.
you go. There you go. Woo, man.
Well, just
Oh,
Donna just told you you didn't dress better at council meetings is what I got from
I
that.
do
But
not
anyway,
say that.
yes, you did. Donna said you didn't
That's
dress
not
better
what
at
she
council
said.
meetings.
That's not what she said.
Thank you, Lori.
Have a great night.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Yeah.
All right,
Thank you,
bye.
folks.
Good night,
Great
y'all.
evening.
Night.
Thank
Good
Bye.
night,
you.
y'all.
Bye.
See you later.
See ya.
Good night.